Happy Hour Friday starts now. What's up, everybody? Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Follow along. What's going on? Oh, my Lord. We got Dodgers and Phillies. Feels like the NLCS is already here. Who's going to the World Series? Best out of three. We'll find out on Monday, right? I'm jacked up for the series. We got dumpy Colorado and equally dumpy Washington to start the season. Now you get a little baseball here. Dodgers and Phils breaking it down. Mike McGarry in about a half an hour from now. Matt Gill tonight at 5:30 as the Phillies host the Dodgers. Dodgers got some bad news today. Last night, I guess you should say. Freddie Freeman out for the series. He will not play. So they are down one of their bats. And, you know, I think everybody looks at that Dodger team. We asked a question at Mike Gill Show. If the Phillies play the Dodgers in the playoffs, do Philly fans realistically think the Phillies could beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series? We'll compare these rosters. Because, you know, the Dodgers spend about $900 million on this team. They have the highest payroll in baseball. They have the best player in baseball by most accounts. They have the reigning MVP, I guess you could say. And they went out and added more talent this year to a team that already won the World Series last year. But what differentiates the Dodgers from the Phillies? If I ask you guys out there, why are the Dodgers better than the Phillies? Are the Dodgers better than the Phillies? What would your answer be? 609-403-0973. Big one at the bank. It's kind of the story of the day. Yesterday we had on Alex Faust, who was going to be calling the game tonight. Remember, the game tonight is on Apple TV+. He said when they open the game tonight, when they open up the beginning of the game, the storyline for the game will be back-to-back or bust for the Dodgers and the Phillies, a team to challenge them who has more playoff wins than any other team since the year 2022. He believes these are the two best teams in the National League. So we have a big one at the bank tonight, and that's kind of where we start the show today on this Happy Hour Friday. And when you take a look at it, I think a lot of people out there, baseball fans, just assume that the Dodgers are going to go to the World Series, that nobody can beat them. So ahead of this weekend series, Phillies-Dodgers, do you think the Phillies can beat the Dodgers in a playoff series? Forget this weekend. I mean, if the Dodgers sweep the Phillies, if the Phillies sweep the Dodgers, if the Phillies sweep the Dodgers, that doesn't mean, wow, they're so much better than the Dodgers. And if the Dodgers sweep the Phillies, let's not go crazy and say, whoa, we're not on the same level as the Dodgers are. Interestingly enough, right now at Mike Gill Show, 81% go one way, 18.5% go the other way. Do you think the Phillies can beat the Dodgers in a playoff series? Get on over there and vote and let us know at 609-403-0973. That's the text board number for you to chime in throughout the show today, 609-403-0973. I think the matchup's great. I think the matchup's fun. We don't have lineups yet, but I would imagine all weekend long you are going to see Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot because 3 right-handed pitchers go, and having to face 3 right-handed pitchers. This is where the storylines are interesting in this series. When the Phillies and the Dodgers were matching them up, and quite frankly, right now, these have been probably the 2 best teams. I mean, I guess you can throw the Padres in there. The Padres have been really good as well. Out west in the National League West, the Padres are 7-0, by the way. The Dodgers are 8-0. The Giants are 5-1, and then the Phillies are 5-1. So really, the best teams in the league have been the 3 teams out west and the 1 team in Philadelphia. Now, through the first week of the season, this doesn't really mean anything. Remember a couple of years ago when the Phillies got off to a bad start and the Pirates got off to a really good start. And the Pirates actually had a good start for like 30 games of the year. And we're like, do you really think the Pirates can hold this up? And they ended up in last place. So I do think the Dodgers at 8-0 can hold this up, though. I think they can keep this up. The Padres, I think they're pretty good. I think the Phillies are pretty good. And we talked to Alex Faust yesterday from Apple TV Plus, and he thinks the Phillies and the Dodgers are probably on a collision course for a rematch in the NLCS, or not a rematch. They haven't played in the playoffs since the 08 crew, all the way back then when the Phillies knocked them out. And then, of course, the Phillies last year lost to the Mets in the division series, so they have a lot of proving to do. It's not a fait accompli that they just get a free pass to go right to the NLCS, but right now, got to feel good about them. But how do these two teams match up? How do these two teams kind of stack up when you look at them? And I think the one thing is interesting. When you look at the starting pitching of the L.A. Dodgers, they only have one lefty in that rotation. Blake Snell is a lefty. He's the only left-hander they have. So I definitely think if the Phillies got the matchups that they have in this series, who's going tonight? Yamamoto. Tomorrow is Sasaki. And Glasnow will be on Sunday. So they will not see Snell in the series, who is the lone lefty that they have. And that is a big advantage this weekend for the Phillies. So you have the three right-handed power arms of the Dodgers, right? The three right-handed power pitchers for the Dodgers. And then you have the Phillies lineup, which is very left-handed heavy. You've got the best opportunity when you have Marsh and Stott in the lineup facing right-handed pitching. So there's definitely an advantage that the Phillies in this series are facing the right-handed guys and not having to face Snell. Now, the Phillies do have some history with Snell, obviously, from his time in San Diego, the year that they went to the World Series. But they will not face him in the series. Now, one area where the Dodgers, I think, have a little bit of an advantage is the Phillies have not performed well against starting pitching, right? They have struggled against starters so far this year for whatever reasons. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but they have hammered bullpens. But one big area for the Dodgers, if it's a close game late, their closer is left-handed. Tanner Scott is one of the best closers and one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. They do have that weapon late in a game that can maybe neutralize the Phillies. Stott, Marsh, Harper, Schwarber, all those guys hitting left-handed. And now, you're late in the game, you're down 2-1, and you're trying to get a little rally going, and they go to Scott, the lefty, and you are at 7, 8, 9 in the lineup. And you got Kepler, another left-hander, forgot about him. You got Kepler hitting in, this maybe Kepler's in like the 6th spot, and then you got Castellanos 7, then you got Stott 8 and Marsh 9. You got 3 out of 4 left-handers, plus you got Schwarber at the top of the lineup. So there's another lefty. That's a check toward the Dodgers when these two teams face off. So 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Right now, if you vote at Mike Gill Show on the X platform, do you believe the Phillies could beat the Dodgers in a playoff series? Absolutely or no way as we start this happy hour Friday.
The answer is absolutely, because baseball history has shown you that the best team at the preseason does not always even get to the World Series, let alone win the World Series. Everything has to go right for you, right? Jimmy Rollins talked about a couple of weeks ago. We played the audio, Mike, where there's a lot of luck that goes into some of this stuff. So,
well, the Dodgers were the best team last year, and they won the World Series. So they're saying, forget those trends. We're the new trend here. We're the best.
So I'm supposed to ignore 40 years of baseball history because it happened last year.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. They bucked the trend last year.
Good for them.
Yeah, they bucked the trend last year.
Good for them. The 90s Braves are on the phone. They'd like to have a conversation.
I mean, is anybody out there questioning whether the Dodgers are the best team in baseball?
Oh, I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning your question, which is you say, can the Phillies beat them? And I say absolutely, because history has shown us.
Well, listen, I think you're maybe taking it too literal. Yes, the Phillies could beat them. Okay, obviously they can beat them. I guess maybe I should rephrase it as, are you confident that they could beat them? Sure, they could beat them. It would be an upset. I think we all would assume that if the odds were out there right now, that the odds, and by the way, they are out there. We can check out World Series odds. We can check out who
Dodgers
can win.
are the prohibitive favorite.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So go off of what I'm saying there. Can they beat them? Yes, it would be an upset. So are you confident that if they played the Dodgers, that you could win that series?
Yes, because I think the Phillies still have something the Dodgers don't. The Phillies have a starting rotation that I have more confidence in than the Dodgers. And I think in the postseason, that really does matter.
Well, and that's what I think, I think we all just take for granted sometimes that the Phillies or that the Dodgers are just the best team. They went out last year and got Yamamoto. They have Ohtani, who hasn't even pitched yet for them.
Right. The story is apparently they're going to hold him till the postseason for pitching.
Jeez. Just hold him off. They could win 110 games and then say, oh, by the way, here comes Ohtani.
Yeah, Dave Roberts talked about it before the season where he said the idea is they're going to ramp him up throughout the year and then have him ready to go for the postseason.
Apparently he threw on Wednesday.
Yep.
And they're going to determine the next steps. They don't know what his return to mound game action, but you're saying it might not even be until the playoffs. But even without him.
Well, maybe like a September, let's say.
Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, and Sasaki. Now, Sasaki's a complete wild card. We have no idea what kind of Major League Baseball pitcher he'll be.
He's been rough to start the year.
He has been so far not great. Yamamoto was not great last year, but he was dominant in key spots in the playoffs for them.
Also, there were moments in the year last year where you saw flashes of Yamamoto, like, oh, there he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Sasaki's been real bad.
Sasaki looks like he is Saki.
He's got a whip of almost 3, which means he is putting almost 3 runners on base every single inning.
Yeah, he adds a whole new definition to whip it real good.
Yeah, he's not good so far. But Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow.
Now, Glasnow is interesting because remember, he has not been healthy almost any season. He rarely gets through a full season without an injury. So when does that injury occur this time, right? When does Glasnow turn into glass?
Don't know the answer to that question, but what I will say is this, and you're right, he has not been reliable, but when he is reliable and when he's pitching, he's a top-of-the-rotation guy.
Yes.
Snell is a Cy Young Award winner. Yamamoto is probably a number 1 or number 2 on almost every single staff in the league. They've also got Dustin May, who has had some postseason success for them as well.
Can't believe that guy's still hanging around. Good for him.
Well, he's a young guy.
Well, I mean, he's been around for a while with the Dodgers. Remember, he came up years ago initially when Kershaw got injured.
He came up in 19 as a young guy,
right?
Really young guy, and now he's still hanging around. But I'll tell you what, he's hanging around. When he pitches, he's very, very good. But look, they're pitching. The 3 guys they have, Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, if they get Ohtani, they are loaded up front with top-end pitching. But I think the ultimate weapon for them is their back end of the bullpen having a lefty for the Phillies. They also have Blake Trinan in the back end of their bullpen, too. So they do have a right-handed closer option as well. So if you get to the part of the lineup where the Phillies actually have some right-handed hitters, if you're fitting that, I mean, that's the problem. Okay, the Phillies just don't have a right-handed hitter that really scares you that you need to start. Now, like if you had Turner, Harper, Bohm, Castellanos, like if Castellanos had a good year to the point where he got himself hitting in the 5-hole, where you had a lineup where Bohm led off an inning and it was Bohm, Real Muto, Castellanos, something like that, they can go to Blake Trinan in that situation. Otherwise, you're going to see Tanner Scott almost in the 9th inning there. Their bullpen, they brought in, what's his name, too? Kirby Yates. I mean, he was a free agent, and they just said, you know what? We've already added a couple of pitchers, Tanner. We'll just bring Kirby Yates in, too. So they just loaded up the back end of their bullpen.
The Dodgers' bullpen definitely is a huge edge over the Phillies. I totally admit that. But like I said, For everything you said about the Dodgers starting staff, I still think the Phillies starting staff might be better.
I wouldn't disagree with that because Sasaki right now seems to be a complete wild card.
Well, like,
you
for
don't know what
example,
he is.
I think we can agree that like Snell and Wheeler are a wash, right?
No, I would take Wheeler over Snell, but yeah, sure.
Would you take Wheeler over Glasnow?
Yes, I take Wheeler over every guy they have.
So
if I'm pitching in a game one, I like Wheeler over every guy they have.
Okay, so then
Now I'm a big Snell guy, but he's not on Wheeler. Like, he's too inconsistent. He just his pitch counts get up.
Yeah,
and he hasn't
So you're saying Wheeler is the number one.
By the way, I love Glass now. His problem is never healthy.
Right. So if we threw all 5 of each team into a pot, there's 10 of them, right? So you're saying Wheeler is number 1 of all 10.
Yeah. Wheeler would be probably 1.
So then Glasnow would be 2?
A good Glass now. A healthy Glass now, I'd probably, maybe.
Well, it's either him or Snell or 2. Which one?
Yeah, either him or probably 2 and 3, however you want to put those.
Okay,
two.
so
they would probably be 2 and 3.
So
although Glass now, he's just never healthy.
So if let's say Snell is 2, Glasnow is 3, is Christopher Sanchez 4?
Yes, absolutely.
And then is Luzardo 5?
Like him and Yamamoto are great stuff guys, but hard to really.
Well,
Yamamoto.
I think the matchup's great tonight because you're going to see arguably the 2 best stuff guys for both teams.
Yeah, Yamamoto not enough resume for me to say they'll put him on the category of in the upper echelon with Wheeler and that crew. I mean, last year he was a little disappointing. I think. I mean, he was hurt a lot.
Well,
I don't want to say a little disappointing. When he pitched, he was pretty good, but he wasn't like
he wasn't what you had hoped for.
He only threw in 18 games last year, and then he pitched well in the playoffs. So yeah, he's very good.
Okay, but still, so what we're saying,
but not better than Wheeler yet. Not there.
3 of the Phillies starting pitchers, you would put in the top 5 if you put both teams.
I would say this. I agree. I think the Phillies staff has a slight advantage, but I don't think it's significant. If you like the Dodgers staff better or the Phillies staff, it's not a significant advantage. No, the only thing I would say that I like better about the Phillies staff versus the Dodgers staff is that the Dodgers are a lot more right-handed and the Phillies are a better team against right-handed pitching than they are left-handed pitching.
So then back to your original question, at Mike Gill Show on the X platform, part of the reason why I say absolutely they can beat them is because I like the Phillies starting staff.
So the Phillies starting staff I like as well. In fact, I've said before, I think this Phillies starting staff has a chance to be better than the 2011 starting staff. So this is nothing against the Phillies starting staff. The Dodgers have a really good starting staff too. The big question is, I think the starting staffs are almost a wash. The one thing I'll give to the Phillies is that the Dodgers starting staff is a advantage to the Phillies lineup because they are better against righties, and the Dodgers don't have the lefties. Now, the Phillies obviously have 3 lefties in their starting rotation as of next month when they get Ranger Suarez back. So they will, now Freddie Freeman is a left-handed hitter. So that is a big bat in the middle of their lineup that, okay, now we have a lefty against your lefty.
It's funny you mentioned 2011, Mike, because it was a similar comment made by Phillies owner and managing partner John Middleton.
By the way,
yeah,
the big lefty is also Ohtani. Not that it really matters for him all that much.
Right, he's just like immune.
Yeah, but I'm saying he is left-handed.
He is left-handed. But it was interesting you mentioned about the 2011 team because John Middleton had a similar sentiment to what we were talking about when he was on the Phillies Show podcast about this Phillies starting rotation.
Starting rotation is tremendous. It has the ability, I think it will prove to be the best rotation in all of baseball by the end of the season. It's going to get close to the 11 team. I mean, it's really hard at the top of the 11 rotation when you look at Holiday and Lee and Hamels to equal that. Certainly Zach can be as good as any pitcher we've ever had, but the bottom of our rotation, I think, is going to be materially better than the bottom of the 11 rotation.
That 11 rotation was spectacular, and I don't disagree with him. I think the Phillies especially, and again, I have said on this show a lot that I like Andrew Painter a lot, and I think Painter will factor in as well. Colin LBI says the Phillies rotation may be more consistent, but the NL Phils only have one ace, Wheeler. The Dodgers have 3 or 4 guys that have Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, and Glass now. All can have sub-3 ERAs. The Phillies' number 2 is either Nola or Luzardo. Yeah, he's not wrong about that. Like Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, and Glass now.
Well, first of all, Ohtani's not pitching until at least September, so let's not get carried away here. We don't even know what he'll look like when he returns.
Fair, but
he might be a year away right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. What we did see of Ohtani, he was a top of the rotation guy.
Top of rotation guy, but on this rotation, I don't know if it's top of the rotation on this rotation at least. He might be like a third.
Wherever you want to slot him, he has top of the rotation stuff.
Yes,
exactly. I'm not saying where you want to slot him in the rotation. That's even more of an advantage to them if he's their third or fourth guy. Because now you don't need him till game 3 or 4, and he's matched up. Now, again, you're matched up against Aaron Nola or Jesus Luzardo or Christopher Sanchez. Yes, the Phillies have good rotations, but I think his point is valid. The only quote-unquote ace right now that you have is Wheeler. The Dodgers have 4 guys that at any time have been, quote-unquote, the ace of a staff.
But guess what? I'm not putting Aaron Nola in the same category as Blake Snell or Tyler Glass now, but when Nola's been at his best, he is just as good as almost any pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, when he's at his best. His problem is the lack of consistency of being at his best.
Right.
Whereas what makes those guys is they are more consistently their best every single time out. Now, the problem with the Dodger guys that's different from Nola takes the ball every time. Those guys, you're not sure if they're healthy enough to pitch. Yamamoto missed almost all of last. He only pitched in 18 games. Glasnow has pitched. I think the most games Glasnow's ever appeared in is like 20. I mean, he is not.
I think Glasnow's never pitched more than 150 innings.
Yeah, he is not the kind of guy that you will be able to depend on. But if he's healthy, we're talking about who's healthy and if they are healthy. Right now, Glasnow's healthy. I like Doug's comment here. If confidence was a batting average, Phillies beating the Dodgers in the NLCS is 210. That's not a great batting average, 210.
By the way, Glasnow,
although in today's world, 210 with like 35 homers and an on-base of 345, you're all right. You can hit 210.
Yeah, you get $200 million.
That would get you paid. If you had a 210 batting average with a 350 on base and 35 home runs, you're all right.
By the way, Glasnow has never pitched more than 134 innings in a season.
Yeah, he's been right around the 20 start mark a couple of times.
Yeah, he's
Poor
a glass
guy.
house.
40 kids watching on YouTube. This is a huge series to see where we can measure up against the Dodgers and give some confidence going forward. I would love to see us take 2 or 3 and give the Dodgers their first loss of the season. Well, it's going to be a great series at Citizens Bank Park, 40. Thanks for watching on the YouTube as always. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We'll, of course, be talking about the series. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is going to join us coming up on the other side. We got so much to do today, including Hard Knocks. Would you want to see the Eagles on Hard Knocks? At Mike Gill Show, vote right now. Let us know. Would you want to see the Eagles on Hard Knocks? I'll give you the reason why I'm bringing that up in just about 20 minutes from now. More Sports Bash on the way. It's 97.3 ESPN. But first, I need caller 7 right now. Who's got the quickest fingers? 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Caller number 7 right now. You are entered for a chance to win a pair of Eagles Club Box seats for a game at Lincoln Financial Field this season to see the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. 609-573-3776. Win a pair of Eagles Club Box tickets. Also, all day, we will have longest drive competitions. We're going to be live at Top Golf Swing Suite inside Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Every hour, we'll have prizes to give away for the longest drive, like an overnight stay at Ocean Casino Resort, gift cards, and tickets to Ocean Casino Resort shows. By the way, all qualifiers, the parking is free. Caller 7. Good luck. Playoff field tonight, I'm sure, at Citizens Bank Park. Phillies and the Dodgers. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City set to join us. Talk a little Phil's Dodgers in the matchup here. Bill in EHT, congratulations. He's caller number 7. He's in. We'll see him at Top Golf in Atlantic City for the draft party. Biggest draft party ever this season, and we have great prizes all throughout. Bonus chances throughout the show, all coming today on the Sports Bash. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Big one early at Citizens Bank Park. Let's take a look at the two teams and get Mike's thoughts on it. Mike, got the undefeated Dodgers here, and is it a fait accompli to everybody pretty much that this Dodger team is going back-to-back? But when you look at the Phillies and the Dodgers, what kind of separation is there for you?
Well, we're going to find out tonight. And remember, last year, I believe the Phillies took 5 of 6 from the Dodgers during the regular season. The Dodgers go in to win the World Series. The Phillies lose in the first round of the New York Mets. So, to me, Mike, these 3 games this weekend, the baseball season is like a long semester college course, but these 3 games are the first pop quiz or the first quiz during the first week of classes. And you just want to make sure you do well on the quiz so you're not overwhelmed by the course material, right? You can handle it. You can keep up. So that's what I'm looking for here. This is kind of just like a little pop quiz, but from an entertainment factor, and if you're a baseball fan, I don't know how you're not pumped up for these 3 games.
Yeah, you look at these 3 games, it's so early in the season. You almost wish, Mike, the game was a little later in the year. It being so early here, it's hard to get a real feel on them. But, 1 week into the season, I don't know what we know or have learned about the Phillies, but one thing we have seen is that Rob Thompson is going to tweak the lineup and do some different things here. But I want to start with Rob Thompson. Are you noticing a different Rob Thompson at all this year?
No, he seems to be the same guy. The same level-headed, calm guy that he's been, ever since he took over. And I guess it was June of 2022. No signs of panic. We asked him about these 3 games coming up, yesterday at the post-game news conference. And he said, yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be fun. But, I don't think anybody's going to be making any judgments off what happens here, these first 3 games. So I think, Rob has been his usual calm, sort of low key, never see sweat type of guy. And he's continued to be that way so far this season.
He is very level-headed. I have noticed, though, Mike, that a couple things, a couple bunts here and there, right? He's calling some more bunts, a little more small ball. He had the bunt play for Marsh, who he couldn't get it down. He's had Rojas bunt a couple times, a little bit more small ball here and there. And you wonder if that's going to be something that they incorporate a little more. And I'm very intrigued to see how he deploys maybe Sosa and others, later on in games. There was a play yesterday in the 6th inning, and you're like, are they going to hit for Marsh here against a lefty? And I thought Marsh did a pretty good job fouling off a couple pitches. He worked a walk. But those are some of the things early on in the season I'm really interested to see how they play. Those 2 lefties, Stott and Marsh, when they start the game, when do they make the decisions, or do they let those guys hit deep into games like that?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how much rope they give them, right? And I think as far as the bunts and stuff, I think that really depends on the personnel. Guys like Brandon Marsh, he's going to have to learn how to get a bunt down in a key situation. Johan Rojas put down 2 successful bunts the other night, and Rob Thompson said that Rojas played the best game of his career because he got 2 bunts down. So one for a base hit, one for a sacrifice. So if Johan Rojas wants to still be on this roster and be a part of this team and not be back in AAA while maybe Jordan Crawford's here, he's going to have to learn how to put some bunts down too. And I think one of the reasons why you're seeing a little small ball is because outside of Kyle Schwarber, the team is really not slugging. But they will slug at some point, and then you're going to see less bunts, and then you'll probably have somebody from EHT texting you, why doesn't this team bump more? So we'll see what happens.
Well, obviously, that's a play that you're right. He said it's the best game that Johan Rojas ever played, and it wasn't much more than him just getting a couple bunts down. And then, this is where the whole Rojas thing becomes interesting. This is also because he's the right-handed bat, not so much in a platoon. I guess they're not platooning, but maybe they're platooning. But the problem is he's not going to pinch hit for anybody. Like, you're not going to send him up there to hit against a left-handed pitcher because he's a better hitter. So it makes it a difficult platoon situation. But when he is in the lineup, you can deploy him, and his speed becomes the difference. And he laid that bunt down the other day. The second baseman doesn't get over in time, and it just causes all sorts of havoc. That's where they can utilize him, and I think that's where he makes them a better team sometimes.
Yeah, I've always said this about Johan Rojas, Mike, and I understand his inability to hit consistently or maybe get bunts down in the past has been frustrating. And I know that sometimes he takes some strange routes to balls in center field. But I think he does sort of not I think he gets a bad rap on some balls hit to center field because I think he gets the balls that nobody else would get to, and he has a chance to catch them. And when he doesn't come up short, you're like, why didn't he catch it? When another center fielder, i.e. Brandon Marsh, probably isn't within 10 feet of the ball, basically. So, yeah, my position on Johan Rojas has always been when he's on the field, a lot of things happen. Not all of it is good, but there's a lot of action. The other night, he had the single up the middle. He had the 2 bunts. He had the stolen base. A lot of good stuff happened. He's got to have, obviously, like anybody, more good days than bad days to sort of be a key part of this team and keep a spot, on the roster and maybe, force them into a platoon. And, Brandon Marsh is going to get an opportunity to hit against left-handed pitching, but how long is that going to go on for? So far, he hasn't exactly shown that he's ready to be an everyday player. So I think all this stuff is going to play out over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll have a better a better idea, come Memorial Day maybe about how much is Marsh going to play, how much is Rojas going to play, are we going to see Jordan Crawford at all? I think all that will play out over the first 2 months of the season, basically.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Do you like the Phillies this weekend based on the matchups, the pitching matchup? They're going to see Yamamoto, Sasaki, and Glasnow, all right-handed pitching. So if you're the Phillies and you want to beat the Dodgers, this is the part of the rotation you want, isn't it?
Yeah, but these guys are pretty good too, and I think one of the things I think you want to kind of avoid at this time of the season is bad narratives. And right now, there's a narrative out there: the Phillies can't hit. Or so far this season, they've done all their damage against bullpens. Right? They really haven't roughed up any starting pitchers. In fact, they've been shut down by most starting pitchers. So and Rob Thompson has made a point that, hey, I'd like to see this team score early. Well, those are 3 guys that might be tough to, put some runs up early. So if they get to one of those 3 guys and put some runs up there against one of these Dodger starters, that can sort of eliminate that narrative that the Phillies struggle against elite starting pitching, or so far they have this season. But this is a tough assignment. That's what I think makes this series so attractive is the 3 great, the 3 great pitching matches. And I think just like you're looking for the Phillies to sort of measure themselves against the Dodger starters, how are the Phillies starters? How is Luzardo tonight going to match up against this Dodger lineup? How's Nola going to go through this Dodger lineup? So how's Sanchez going to go through this Dodger lineup? So I think it's a fascinating test. That's why I call it like an early season quiz. Hey, where am I right now? How am I doing? Can I handle this course? Look, this is a little bit of a measuring stick right now. Not going to define either team's season, not going to determine who wins the World Series. It's just going to be great baseball, great entertainment, and it's going to give you an idea, hey, 2 weeks in, where do we stand right now? How do we look against a team that's 8-0, is a defending World Series champion, and is everybody's pick to repeat as World Series champion?
Yeah, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. If I'm saying, hey, you got a series, 7 games, do you like the Dodger rotation or the Philly rotation? Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow. Sasaki's been pretty rocky so far. I don't know what's going to happen with Ohtani. They've got Kershaw and May kind of waiting in the wings there, I guess. But do you like the Phillies rotation or the Dodger rotation?
Mike, I'm going to go out. I don't know if it's a limb here, but right now I would say I like the Phillies rotation. If you're going to go strictly on a short series, because I think Zach Wheeler is the best pitcher on either team. So if you want to tell me in a 7-game series, I've got Zach Wheeler going twice for me. I like that. I like the odds there. I like what Christopher Sanchez has done Luzardo, certainly 11 strikeouts in his first start. Big start tonight for Luzardo. We'll see what he looks like going forward. But I think that Dodgers staff has enough questions. And the Phillies have gotten some of their guys in the postseason before. So I'm going to go with the Zach Wheeler factor. I think, Mike, I was thinking about this the other day, especially with the way Wheeler pitched on that frigid, cold night here out there in short sleeves, shutting down the Colorado Rockies. I think Zach Wheeler has been so good, and it's almost such a given when he goes out there that he's going to pitch well. He might be so good that he might be a little bit underrated right now. We might not appreciate just how good Zach Wheeler is. I think there's a case you can make that he is the best starter, at least in the National League.
It's funny, we've talked about this. I don't know that I've brought it up with you, but, as he pitched for the Mets, I don't know that you ever saw this, but I can tell you this. When the Phillies signed him, there's no way, no how Phillies fans nor the Phillies thought they were getting a Cy Young Award candidate.
Well, he had, you go look at his history. He was a big draft pick with the San Francisco Giants. The Mets got him when they traded Beltran to the San Francisco Giants. He had big arm trouble. I know he had at least one Tommy John surgery with the Mets. His last season when he was pitching with the Mets before before the Phillies signed him, he was, maybe the best starter on a Mets staff that included a Jacob deGrom in his prime at that point, Noah Syndergaard in his prime, Matt Harvey was pitching well at that point. So Wheeler, towards the end of his Met tenure was just a fantastic pitcher and maybe the best pitcher that the Mets had. Now, the Mets gave up on him, I think, in part because of his injury history. But, Mike, you can take a look at it and it'd be, for a slow day, you can discuss it. Has there been a better free agent signing in all of Philadelphia Phillies history? And where does he rank as far as free agent signings in terms of the entire Philadelphia sports scene history, basically? You want to tell me is Saquon Barkley's number one? Okay, you want to throw Pete Rose in there? For what you gave Zach Wheeler, it's hard to get more out of a guy than what you got by signing Zach Wheeler. He has just been tremendous from the first time he walked in the door here in Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, he has been absolutely way more than anybody could have ever envisioned. Anybody at all could ever envision. On the flip side, they gave $18 million a year to Taijuan Walker. Am I supposed to buy into him now?
Well, no. I mean, he's a wait-and-see story. Although I will say yesterday, and I wrote about this, I've got a story up on PressOfAC.com. I thought it was kind of a heartwarming day for him yesterday. He struggled so much last year. He talked about his mom. When he comes off the mound in the sixth inning, the crowd gave him a kind of a standing ovation. His mom was crying. Someone asked him, when's the last time your mom cried? He said, last year when she watched me get booed here. So I thought yesterday was a good reminder, Mike, that, they're professional athletes. Yeah, they're ultra talented. Yeah, they're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. Yes, they have no reason to complain about anything, but they are still human beings with feelings. And if you couldn't feel for Taijuan Walker or feel good for him, and how he pitched yesterday and the day he had yesterday, I don't know what to say. I thought it was a very heartwarming day for him. Now, having said that, what does it guarantee? Absolutely nothing. I mean, Taijuan Walker, like us all, is day-to-day, but he might be day-to-day than most of us. So there you go.
Well, and I guess it's funny. All right, he throws 3 good games, then Suarez comes back. Then what happens to Walker? That will be the next conversation here, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he pitches well and Suarez shows he's healthy, is Taijuan Walker in a deal at the trade deadline for, another bullpen arm or a piece that they need to sort of, put them over the top? So, look, it's only going to benefit the Phillies, and one way or the other, it's only going to benefit Taijuan Walker one way or the other if he continues to pitch well. But, if he pitches well, he, at the very least, he restores his trade value, and he gives the Phillies some cushion, or, if another starter were to go down with an injury for a couple of weeks. Because I have a feeling that, not all 5 of these guys are going to make it through the season, make every start on turn throughout the season.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, PressOfAC.com. It is the Phillies and the Dodgers up at Citizens Bank Park. It's 8-0 L.A., 5-1 Philadelphia. Yamamoto pitching tonight against Jesus Luzardo. Last one for you, Mike. Edmundo Sosa, he's the hot name. He did not play yesterday. People trying to find more ways. Do you just say, I'm comfortable platooning him, or is there another avenue to get him more at-bats?
Yeah, I don't know. I would just tell the people to just sort of appreciate what they have with Armando Sosa and not try to get too much of Armando Sosa. I mean, to me, Armando Sosa is like, a good dessert, right? You can have some ice cream with dessert, once in a while, and it tastes great. But if you have ice cream, for dessert after every meal or 7 days a week, it kind of loses its luster a little bit, right? At least in my mind. So I think Armando Sosa, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If he gets 300 to 350 at-bats, you're going to love Armando Sosa. If Armando Sosa is getting 550 to 600 at-bats, you're probably got some questions about the Phillies.
Are you comfortable as a straight platoon, or do you want Stott getting the majority of those at-bats?
I still believe in Bryson Stott. I still think the elbow injury last year kind of held him back. I think Stott is a guy you got to give the year to. And then maybe, this time next year, if Stott has a year like he had last year and doesn't take a step forward, I think then we talk about it. But I think Bryson Stott, to me, Mike, I don't know how you feel, but he just looks like a guy who can hit. He looks like a baseball player. He said he hit the home run in Washington last weekend. He said he couldn't have done that last year because of his elbow injury. I've still got a lot of Bryson Stott stock. I'm not selling. I don't care what the Dow Jones average is doing now. I'm keeping my Bryson Stott stock. I'm keeping it the whole year. I'm not selling it. I want to see him at second base for 150 games this year. Maybe next year at this time we'll talk differently, but right now I'm holding on to my Bryson Stott stock. I still think there's a lot of upside there.
All right. I don't know if anybody asked, Tom. They didn't play Sosa. They tried him in the outfield. I guess that did go well.
Yeah, I just don't think he's, had the time to sort of make the adjustment there. I think he's a guy, third base, shortstop, second base. We'll see. Maybe they try to make a shift there during the year. But, as of right now, they don't really see him as a guy who could be out there in the outfield on a daily basis or a semi-daily basis, playing out there. I just don't think they have enough confidence in him defensively, basically.
All right, Sports Bash Live. There you go. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. At AC Press McGarry, Phillies and Dodgers tonight. Thanks, Mike.
All right, great game here tonight. We'll see you down the road. Thanks.
Mike's back on Monday to recap this series. We got more chances, bonus opportunities for you coming up on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, to get involved in this year's Eagles draft party. We got so much more to come, including the Nuggets today. What is on Nicky Nuggets' mind? Find out at 4:30. Football at 4 with Andrew DeCecco. All that and more still to come on a happy hour Friday edition of the Sports Bash. All right, coming up next hour, Sports Bash Live. Eagles fans, would you want the Eagles to be on Hard Knocks? Vote at Mike Gill Show. Do you want to see the Eagles on Hard Knocks this season? I'll give you the details on that coming up. Plus, right now, it's a bonus chance for you to enter for this year's Eagles draft party. Text the word draft to 609-403-0973. Include your name and where you're from. Draft your name and where you're from to 609-403-0973. First three people in, you've got an entry to this year's Eagles draft party, and you can win a pair of Eagles tickets, club box seats for a game at the Link this year. Plus, we have overnight stays, Ocean Casino gift cards, and so much more. You must be present to win at Top Golf on the day of the draft. Good luck. New hour of the Sports Bash, 3 o'clock, brought to you by Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, 609-390-3907. A couple text messages I want to get to. 609-403-0973. Phillies lineup is out for the season opener against the Dodgers. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Kepler, Castellanos, Realmuto, Stott, Marsh. Luzardo pitches tonight. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Kepler, Castellanos, Realmuto, Stott, Marsh. So you got those three lefties, 8, 9, 1. Then you got another lefty in the 3 spot and another lefty in the 5 spot. But you're facing a right-hander tonight in Yamamoto, so that lineup plays. And obviously, whenever they face a righty, you're going to see this. You got the Stott, Marsh, Schwarber, back. Josh, you said you don't like those three guys hitting back-to-back in the lineup like that. Against a right-handed pitcher, I mean, I guess you're going to see that. It's not going to change.
I don't care if I'm going to see it. I still don't like it. To me, there's no need to have 3 straight lefties ever in a batting lineup. You're telling me that JT Realmuto, it's like against the rules to bat him in between Marsh and Stott? Like, is there some rule that a guy has to be in a certain slot in the lineup? Like, I just don't understand it at all. To me, there's no reason to have any lineup where you have Stott, Marsh, and Schwarber as the 3 straight hitters at any point in time.
I have no problem with that. I don't know why they're not splitting them myself. I mean, they're basically saying that they think there's a big jump from Realmuto to Stott.
But it shouldn't matter because at the end of the day, the line gets turned over so many times. Like, do we really believe that Castellanos so desperately needs Realmuto behind him in the lineup?
Say that again?
Like, am I supposed to believe that Castellanos desperately needs Realmuto behind him in the lineup?
Okay. So, no, I don't think. I mean, the way that they have it, I don't think it's about he needs to have him behind him. I think they're saying that they think Stott and Marsh are weaker.
I mean, weaker in what sense? I mean,
they're not as good. Weaker meaning not as good as the guy ahead of them. Like, you're not going to put a weaker hitter in front of a better hitter. I think they're saying that we feel that this hitter is not better than this one, so we're moving him to a lower spot in the lineup.
I mean, is that how you build your lineups? Like, are you predicating it purely on who the better hitter is, or are you trying to build your lineup based on how guys complement each other?
It's a little bit of both, but in this case, when you have a right-handed pitcher, you're going to put the lefties. Now, the problem becomes later on in the game where you have them all bunched together. Now, if you're willing to hit for those guys later on in the game, then what's the difference? Like, if I'm saying Stott's up in the 8th inning,
right,
and there's a left-handed pitcher, I'll go to Sosa.
Well,
Why do I care?
Go to Sosa, but you think Thompson will go to Sosa?
That I don't know, but I'm saying if he's willing to say, I have Stott up right now in a spot where I don't feel comfortable. I have Sosa ready to go and play second base. Okay, I'll hit him there.
See,
the one problem is with Marsh. They don't have anybody to hit for Marsh without making 2 moves.
Without making 2 moves.
Because you're not going to hit Rojas for Marsh. Let's say there's a runner on second base in the 8th inning of a 2-2 game. All right? There's 2 outs. There's a runner on second, and now Marsh is up, and a left-handed pitcher is in the game. What do? Do you let him hit against the lefty? If you hit for him, who do you use? Do you use Sosa? And then you have to remove Sosa from the game, and then you put Marsh in the game. You're not going to put Marsh in to hit in that spot, I would imagine.
You mean Sosa? And this Rojas.
Rojas, right. Yeah. You're not going to pinch hit Rojas for Marsh.
Right.
Generally in that spot. I mean, he just doesn't hit. He doesn't hit well enough to say you're the selection of the pinch hitter here.
Right.
So you're either stuck hitting Marsh or using someone else to hit for Marsh and then having to remove that guy from the game. Now,
well, part of the problem is that aside from Sosa, who the heck else are you pinch hitting? Cody Clemens is a left-handed hitter.
Cody Clemens is a left-handed hitter, so now you're down that move as well.
Which goes back to the whole, we had the conversation about who was going to make this roster before the season, Buddy Kennedy or Cody Clemens.
Well,
and remember Rob Thompson said that part of the reason why they sent Kennedy down and put Clemens on the team was because they didn't see a lot of opportunities for Kennedy.
no, that's not what he said. It's not that he didn't see opportunities for Kennedy. He said he wouldn't use him over
wouldn't use
certain
him.
guys. Like, in other words,
Well, that makes it
I
worse.
don't
because,
find Buddy Kennedy to be a better option than Brandon Marsh just hitting for himself.
Fine,
So he's
so then-
essentially saying he has no trust in Buddy Kennedy.
Right, but my point is that that's Thompson's mentality. So that gets back to my original question. Do we have confidence that in a important situation in the game that Rob Thompson is going to pinch hit for these guys? And based on track record, I don't see it. So that's why for me, if you're not going to pinch hit for these guys, why have 3 lefties in a row
I think he would pinch hit for Stott.
with Sosa?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's a tie game and Tanner Scott comes in,
Same situation I just laid out.
you're saying Sosa comes in for Stott.
Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is, okay, let's say this. Yes, I think he would. There's a couple of things here now. Depends on where you are in the game. Is it the 8th inning? Because I think the 8th inning is different than the 7th or 6th. Because how so? If the move comes up in the 6th inning and I make that move, I hit
Sosa.
I think he would hit Sosa for Stott because he can just make the straight move.
Right.
The problem becomes when you have to hit for Marsh earlier in the game. If you're not going to use Rojas, you then have to hit for Marsh and then replace that guy with Rojas.
Right.
So now you've burned 2 players. Now, Rojas is in the game, but he's still the weaker hitter.
Correct.
So now he's the weaker hitter if you're going to use him to pinch hit for somebody. Now, there's another scenario where later on in the game you can use him to bunt. You're not going to bunt him with 2 outs.
Right.
So it is a tough scenario because Rojas is not a guy you're generally going to call on to pinch hit. So let's say this same scenario happens in the 7th inning. Runners on second, there's 2 outs, and Marsh is up against a left-handed pitcher. And he's saying, you struck out twice today against a lefty. I got to do something here. I'm going to hit Sosa in this spot. And let's just say Sosa doesn't get a hit. Strikes out. You left the runner on second. Now you have Sosa. He doesn't play center field. Now I got to put Rojas in the game. So now I have Rojas in the game. Well, now the same scenario comes up where Rojas is in the game and he comes up to bat in the 9th and they have a right-handed pitcher pitching. Now, what do? Do I hit Cody Clemens in that spot? I guess. But then if I do that, I'm essentially out of players other than Marchand, the reserve catcher.
Correct.
So that's where not having the right-handed complement bat that is equal to Marsh in certain areas. They are just not great complements to each other.
But it's also what happens when you go out and sign Max Kepler, because you have now extra tied your roster to even more left-handers, because if your right fielder was not a left-handed hitter, right, your everyday left fielder was not Max Kepler, now potentially the guy that's on your bench is not a guy who you have to worry about laying out the roster this way. Now maybe the lineup even looks differently every day.
Yeah, here's Paul in Millville. This one's outside the box. Mike, what do you think of having Sosa as an everyday player? Okay, I want to stop right there. What do I think of Sosa as an everyday player? I don't like it. I don't like Sosa as an everyday player. Why? Sosa has been in the league for 7 years. This isn't like this guy. He's had one good week, and I get it. When he has played in the – people act like when he's played last year that, like, he was amazing. He was very good, by the way, for the time that he played. I'm going to bring up his splits for whatever month Turner got hurt last year. When was that, May?
That was June. Hamstring injury was June last year.
So last year for Edmundo Sosa.
I mean, it went from June into July, but still, it happened. The injury was sustained.
Am I looking at the right guy? Sosa? No, this is Bryson Stott. I was going to say he looks like an everyday player with those things. Let me get Mundo Sosa's. I just want to put this out there for, I get it. Sosa's had a great start. He's hitting 600. Those are amazing numbers. I mean, do you really think he's going to hit 600 if he's an everyday player? But I want to say this. Edmundo Sosa played last year 90 games. Okay? He played 90 games last year. He hit 257 with a 313 on-base percentage. The year before that, he played 104 games. He hit 251 with a 293 on-base percentage. 293. That's almost unplayable, all right? So let's pump the brakes with Sosa playing every single day here, okay? I get it. He's had a great start of the season here. But I will say this. In the time that he played last year, he played in May 22 games. He started 22 games in May last year. That's when Turner got hurt, and then he went to June.
In the June, yes.
And in the time he started those games, he did have a good stretch. He hit 306 with a 375 on-base percentage. So are we surmising that he's a better starter than he is a utility player? Because in those starts, 22 starts, he hit 306 with a 375. Those numbers are excellent, by the way.
Is he maybe more comfortable getting those consistent plays?
I will say this, okay? Now, you asked that question. So now I'm going to hit you with the other side of it.
Sure.
He started 17 out of 20 games in June. And once they got him on film, he hit 219 with a 265 on-base percentage.
So that goes back to your original
The
point
more
that-
they saw Sosa, the more they figured him out and said, this is what he doesn't like to do, this is what he doesn't hit, and this is why you got to pick your spots with guys like that. There's a reason why Sosa doesn't play every day, because he hit 219 last year when he started 17 out of 20 games. Now, for the most part, Sosa's a nice energy guy. As a starter, by the way, he started 68 games last year for the Phillies. And in those 68 games, he hit 272 with a 325 on-base percentage, 7 home runs, 31 RBI. As a sub in 22 games, he obviously doesn't like to pinch hit very much. He hit 095 with a 174 on-base percentage. So, yeah, he feels more comfortable, it seems, as a starter, but I think we're acting like if Sosa, and so I want to go on to what Paul and Millville said. What do you think of having Sosa as an everyday player? I don't like it. He says move Turner to center and Sosa to short. I feel like that's a better option than the Mars Rojas situation. Now, what I would say is I don't know how willing the team and or Turner, we just act like this is like we could just take someone and say, hey, Turner, you're going to center field today. Like, the guy got paid $300 million, Paul. Like, you think he's going to be like, yeah, sure.
I mean, really, there's only 2 players I can think of off the top of my head that were all-star players at one position and then were okay with being moved and still were successful in another position. It's not like it's something that happens all the time. Typically, guys stay at a position, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're a 300. Now, listen, I get it. Turner has played center field when he first came up.
Right.
When he first came up, now remember, mind you, he's a rookie. He's in the league. I'll do what you tell me to do.
Right.
Well, now he's a $300 million guy. So, yes, for fans and fodder, fine, I'll move Turner to center field. What the hell do I care? If it makes – it's not as easy as us just having a conversation on the radio saying, hey, let's just move Turner to center field. I don't think he's going to say, yeah, I'll just move to center field. I think Trey Turner wants to play shortstop.
I think also, and I've heard a lot of former players talk about this, they talk about how some guys are just not able to make the transition. Some guys are just better infielders than outfielders.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Mike, I like Mike McGarry, but I have to watch Bryson Stott for 150 games. I might have committed for the safety of my well-being. He can't hit a fastball. You don't belong in the league. One of the slowest bats in Major League Baseball, 0 power. I'm counting down the days until Edmundo Sosa gets a chance to play every day. They are essentially the same age. I don't understand why Stott has been anointed the chosen one. What has he done? Steve in EHT. Well, I can't disagree with you. Their numbers are essentially identical. They're pretty close, Stott as an everyday player and Sosa. I can't sit here and say Sosa's numbers are just so great that I have to play him. They're just about the same as Stott. One guy was a first-round pick. The other guy is an international free agent. There's your difference right there. We drafted a guy in the first round. We have more of a value of that first-round pick. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Topper literally only cares about right-handed matchups. He'd rather play a crap player who has preferable matchup over a player who's actually better. That's the whole league. And by the way, the manager doesn't make those decisions. They're all decided on from analytics. So you can blame Topper if it makes you feel good. But
even if it wasn't analytics, Mike, you and I talked about this the last 2 years.
There's nobody out there that's going to take two marginal players and play the left-handed guy against the left-handed pitcher. That's what the game has become. Every team in this league has platoons. They all have guys that are, it's like basketball. Back when we grew up, 6 guys played. You had the starting 5 and a 6-man. You never saw the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10 guy getting 20, 25 minutes a game. Now that's just, you got to accept it. That's baseball. Like, there's 4 star players, and then everybody else plays like based on matchups, analytics. Who do you face? Who are you better against? It's not caring about righty matchups or lefty matchups. That's what the analytics say to do. These managers don't sit here and say, you know what? I think this guy's better today. I'm going to do that today. No, these lineups are decided. They decide on the beginning of the week. This is who we're facing this week. These are the lineups this week. If you can't understand that, then yeah, you could bemoan Rob Thompson and say he sucks. I don't care about that. Go ahead. I mean, what the hell do I care? You don't like Rob Thompson? You think he makes these moves? I can't convince you otherwise. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sit here and hammer you over the head and say, well, if you understood that he doesn't really make these lineups, well, then maybe I like Rob Thompson more. No, you either like him or you don't. I mean, this is what teams do. Every team in baseball does the same things. Everybody does.
I was just going to throw in there, Mike, that we talked about this the last 2 years, is that even if Rob Thompson made the lineup unilaterally, I will never believe, or any day of my life, that if Rob Thompson didn't do what the front office wanted him to do, he wouldn't have the job.
Of course not. None of these guys can just go rogue.
It doesn't matter who makes the lineup. The reality is the lineup is what the organization wants, period. Whether Rob Thompson does it by himself in a dark room with a candlelight, or if it's 10 guys sitting around a table group thinking it.
Yeah, I listen, I get it. We all would like to see Sosa play and say, I want to give him a chance to play every day. His numbers are so the guy's sending me Stott and Sosa's career stats. As I just said, they're essentially identical. What part of identical did you not understand? The part where I said they're essentially the same? Or the fact that I said that, do you not understand what identical means? Sosa and Stott's career numbers are, okay, so Sosa is a 259 hitter. Stott's a 256 hitter. Sosa's 316 on base. Stott's 315. Sosa's a 409 OPS. Stott's a 383. They're essentially identical players. I said before, I have no problem with Sosa playing against left-handed pitching. If you want to start Sosa every day, I said that yesterday. I'd play Sosa every day as the right-handed bat against lefties. No problem with that at all. Zero issue. Identical numbers. Just play Stott against right-handers. Play Sosa against lefties. I have zero issue with that. Is one better than the other? You're giving me 2 guys who have the same numbers, and you're telling me one guy's better than the other.
I think this individual is trying to replicate Rush Hour. He doesn't just understand what you're saying at all. It's like, when they say, do you understand the words that come in my mouth? In Rush Hour, like that's what's going on here. I think that you keep saying the same thing again and again, and this one texter just doesn't want to hear it.
Well, he wants to be right.
We all want to be right.
It's all right. I mean, yeah, Sosa's OPS is 40 points higher. Yeah, Sosa's OPS is 40 points higher. He's batted how many times less? I mean, come on. It doesn't take rocket science to figure that out. He's got less at-bats. He gets less at-bats. He doesn't – when you get less at-bats, as we just pointed out, the other team doesn't see you as much.
You're less exposed.
You're less exposed. When they exposed Sosa last year, his numbers dropped by about 150 points. When he played every day for 2 straight months, he got exposed. By the way, I'm not supporting Stott. I'm just saying I don't really need to see Sosa play every day either. If you want to platoon them, fine. But I'm not saying you should replace one with the other and one deserves to play over the other. They're both just average players. I'm not saying that Stott should play every day. I didn't say he should play 150 games. That was Mike McGarry who said that.
You never said that.
No, I said yesterday, platoon the two guys. Stott hasn't done anything to impress me. I got no problem with Sosa playing more times, more than Stott. But there's not one of those two guys that's any better than the other. They're basically the same player. They're just two guys who hit 260 with a 310 on-base percentage. Yeah. Sosa's numbers are going to be a little bit different because he doesn't have as many at-bats. Give him more at-bats. And then, so he's got the same numbers with less at-bats. What do you think's going to happen to him when he gets more at-bats? Do you think his numbers are magically going to rise? Or do you think as teams see him more, those numbers might drop a little bit?
I think they're going to gradually drop a little bit.
Well, okay. Just saying. You bat Sosa more like when he batted more last year.
Right.
1 month, he hit 3-something. Well, then the next month, when they saw him every day, he went down to 210.
Right. It was almost 100 less.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like he got exposed to me.
A little bit. Now, listen, this isn't an
anti-Sosa position. Sosa is not significantly better than the guy you want to replace him with. They are basically equal type players. So it's the 93 Phillies all over again. You just platoon the guys and get the best you can out of both of them.
Yeah. All right, Sports Bass Live 97.3 ESPN. So essentially I'm agreeing with the guy, and he still wants to argue. I'm agreeing with you. I have no problem. Now, what I disagreed with was the guy who said, why not play him every day at shortstop and move Turner to center field?
That we all disagreed with. Well, at least you and me did.
Yeah, I don't think that's the answer here.
We like some better answers. Can you text in at 609-403-0973?
Listen, it's not easy to play Major League Baseball when you play twice a week. No bleep, Sherlock. I just got done explaining to you. Last year, he played every day for 2 straight months, okay, when Trey Turner got hurt. So he wasn't playing twice a week. He played every day for 2 months in a row. And the first month, he played really well. And then the second month, once teams saw him, he was not very good. Unless we have a different understanding of what good and not very good is. In my estimation, and we could be off base on this, Steve, all right? You seem to know a lot about baseball. Maybe you're more athletic than I am. Maybe you have more athletic bones in your body. But where I come from, 210, when I play every day, if I'm hitting 210, that's not very good. And he played every day in the month of June. He started 17 games in June out of 20. He hit 219. I'm sorry, I said 210. 219 is not very good. Now, you might say, well, Stott's, I'm not advocating Stott. I'm just saying let's pump the brakes on Sosa. That's all. If you think Sosa is an unfound gem, all right, then I'm wrong. All right, maybe the whole baseball world has got Sosa wrong. And maybe he is a undiscovered all-star that we all are wrong on. But in 7 years in this league, he's about a 250 hitter with a very low on-base percentage. There's a reason for that. So he does a good job in his role. Can't we just enjoy nice things? They have a nice role player. They have a nice utility guy. Now, do they, again, I don't have any problem platooning him at second base with Stott. You want to play him at second base half the time with Stott? No issue with that. I don't think Stott deserves to play every day. In fact, I said it at the beginning of the year, Stott and Marsh, I don't need to see them play against lefties anymore. I'm done with them. In fact, I don't really need to see Marsh play against righties. He's okay against righties, but I'd like an upgrade there. Stott, same thing. I don't think Stott is anything more than what he is. A 250, 260 hitter, probably low on base percentage. Heck, I got people telling me they want him to hit leadoff. I think they're crazy. But I have no problem at all having Sosa get more playing time, and I talked about this yesterday. I have no problem with him getting more playing time, playing second base. against left-handed pitching. And then you can plug him in 1 day a week at short and 1 day a week over at third. And this way you can get him in the lineup 3 to 4 times a week. No problem with that.
I think I need some happy hour Friday recommendations because this conversation is making me want to drink.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. You thought about it for a minute and you realized, you know what? A nice crisp IPA in your hand right now would make this conversation a lot easier.
All right, Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN.
It is happy hour Friday.
Yep. Mike, you're missing my point. I'm saying he deserves a chance. That's all I'm saying. Yes, Steve, I agree with you. I told you, we're agreeing. I think he deserves a chance to play as the right-handed bat against left-handed pitching. I agree. He deserves that chance and see what happens. I agree with that. I don't need to see him play every day. I don't need to get him exposed. I don't need him to not play every day. He could play against righties, against lefties. And then a couple days a week, he goes and plays 1 day a week, he goes and plays short. 1 day a week, he goes and plays third. You want to get him 3-4 games a week? I have no problem with that. I got no problem with that. I said I'm not moving him to shortstop every day and moving Turner to center field. That's what I said. If you don't like that answer, I'm sorry. Another chance for you to qualify coming up here on the Sports Bash. Caller 7-609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Caller number 7 right now. You are in for this year's Eagles draft party. You can win tickets, club box seats to a home game this year at Lincoln Financial Field. Plus, we have other great prizes all throughout the show. We're going to be doing longest drive every hour, and every hour's winner will have a different prize, like an Ocean Casino overnight stay and other great prizes. Caller 7 right now, 609-573-3776. You must be present to win at Top Golf. We're going to be there live on the day of the draft, where the Eagles pick number 32. We'll talk more draft coming up at Football at 4. Caller 7. Good luck. All right, 332 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Couple more texts coming in. Mike, Bryce Harper got paid that massive contract to play right field. Now he's a first baseman, which has caused these outfield problems. Yes, Paul, I agree. He got paid to play right field, but what happened was he ended up getting hurt. He had major elbow surgery, so they wanted to not have him have to throw the ball all that much, so they decided to move him to first base to try to prolong his career. So Harper was a willing participant to move to first base. I don't know that Turner will be as willing to move to center field. That's all. Hey, listen, we all want to come up with ways to make the team better. I don't. This is no disrespect to Sosa, by the way. I like Sosa. I think he's awesome in his role. It's one of the reasons why the Phillies are pretty good. They have a guy in that role that if somebody got hurt, they could stick him in there and not really, miss a beat. And he can play second base. He can play shortstop. He can play third base. They have multiple positions that they can kind of use him at. So it's one of those things where you have one guy that can play three different spots and move him all over the diamond. So if you take him out and put him at second base, then what? If he's the everyday second baseman, now you don't have that guy that can kind of move all over the place. You have one guy who could do three things as opposed to, like, say, Stott. Now, yeah, Stott can play shortstop. Is he going to play third? Probably not. Plus, he's a left-handed hitter, and you're going to move him to the bench. Now you have another left-handed hitter on the bench. One of the reasons Sosa works in the role that he's in is because he is right-handed, and he can play third, he can play second, he can play short. So he fits the role that they need for him. It's not a knock on Sosa, okay? Sosa's numbers have been solid. His numbers are no better than Stott. So if you want to tell me that you think that those two guys should split the time more. Now, let's take a look at something, that one of the things that these teams look at, right? You have Edmundo Sosa, and he's a right-handed hitter. So when you have him as a right-handed hitter, you want to see what is his numbers against left-handed hitters. And then you want to look at Stott's numbers against left-handed hitters. And then you would say, all right, Sosa is against righties 259, and against lefties he's 258. So his splits are not bad. He can hit lefties as well as he hits righties. Now, he's not one of these guys that just mashes left-handed pitching, but I would say if I'm the Phillies, I have no problem. I look at those splits and I say, okay, Edmundo Sosa against left-handed pitching, 258, 313 on base percentage. It's good. It's not great, but I think it's probably better than Bryson Stott is against left-handed pitching, right? Bryson Stott against left-handed pitching in his career. Bryson Stott is really living off of his 2023 season. He hit 280 with 15 home runs, a 329 on base, which is just okay, not great. That season, he showed the promise of a player who might, if you hit 280 in your second year as a second-year player, they're thinking you hit 280 as a second-year player, you're going to make that jump. And a lot of people thought he would make that jump. And then, there's a lot of reports that he had the injury, and that held him back last year. So now here's Stott, post-injury that he reportedly had last year. Let's see what he does. Now, here's the problem for Sosa. Sosa against left-handed pitching, and this is interesting, okay? They've both played about the same amount of games against lefties, okay? Against left-handed pitching, Sosa has faced 420 plate appearances against lefties. Bryson Stott against lefties, 415 plate appearances. 5 plate appearances different. Okay?
It's basically one game.
One game. Against lefties, and this is where Sosa, okay, you're like, okay, then why don't you play him against lefties? In 420 plate appearances against lefties, Sosa's 258. Bryson Stott in 415 plate appearances, 255, 255. Stott has a 333 on base and a 456 slug. 313 on base for Sosa, a 461 slug. So a little bit better power numbers against the lefties. Sosa, 12 homers, 51 RBI against lefties. Stott, just 6 homers, 42 RBI against lefties. So there you see the power difference. Sosa provides a little bit more power, actually double the power against left-handed pitching. So they have about the same batting average, the same on-base percentage, more power from Sosa. So I guess from that aspect, sure, play Sosa against lefties. Again, I don't have a problem with that. You want to play Sosa every day against left-handed pitching, you're going to get a little bit more power, it looks like. The batting average is going to be almost identical. The on-base percentage tips towards Bryson Stott. So do you want the guy who's going to get on base a little bit more? 333 to 313? Or do you want the guy who's going to provide a little bit more power? Probably the guy with more power, right? Now, another difference, Stott against left-handed pitching has 19 stolen bases. Sosa, 2. Does that number do anything for you? I don't know. But I think the moral of the story here is against a lefty where you're saying let's get Sosa some chances because Stott against lefties and he's a lefty, it doesn't seem that Stott struggles that much against lefties and that Sosa is that big of an upgrade. Now against right-handed pitching, Sosa, 259. Stott against right-handed pitching, 256. So they're almost identical in the numbers there. So you can make an argument to say, well, then why are you playing Stott every day against right-handers? He's not any better than Sosa is against righties. So if you want to say, hey, go with the analytics and see which right-handed pitchers that Sosa has had success against in the past, that could be a way to get him more playing time as well, right? You look at it from that perspective. But, again, if we're on the 5th game of the year, this what's tonight, the 7th game of the year?
Yes.
And we're already complaining that Edmundo Sosa is not playing enough, I think that's third world problems here. Like, I think you had a pretty good team is what the moral of the story is. I think you probably have a pretty good team if you're saying you're 5-1 and one of your biggest issues right now is you want more playing time for your utility player, right? I mean, that's a pretty good thing. So appreciate the back and forth. I don't really disagree that Sosa should get some more playing time. I just don't think he should start and play every day. That's all. I think if you start him and play every day, you're just weakening the depth of the team. One of the things McGarry mentioned before is the depth of the Phillies lineup better than the depth of the Dodger lineup and the depth of the Phillies team. If you put Sosa into the lineup every day, I don't know that your everyday lineup is that much stronger.
No.
But you're now weakening the depth
bench.
of the team.
Yeah.
Well, the depth of the team. Because he gives you the ability to play second, short, and third. So he can play for Bohm one day. He can play for Turner one day. He can play for Stott another day. If you take him off the field, how is your team depth-wise better?
It's not. That's the point. The point is that if you put the whole value of Sosa is he is creating something that you need, which is like in basketball, a sixth man. Every good team needs that person who is not one of the starters every day, but can, when needed and called on, produce at least a level of a starter.
Yeah. You lose. So it's like I had the best starting team in the league, but my backup guys weren't any good.
Right. You know, it's like I said in football, you know, if your number 2 and number 3 guy is practically useless, then there's no value in keeping him on the roster.
609-403-0973. So Paul in Millville, yeah, Harper did get paid to play right field, but I don't think they paid him. By the way, let's backtrack on that. He got paid a massive contract not to play right field. He got paid a massive contract to come here and be Bryce Harper, an MVP-level hitter. Whatever they did with him after that, field-wise, was inconsequential of why they paid him a massive contract. Do we agree on that?
Yes, but that was also like 6-7 years ago as well. Things change. Life changes. You got to evolve. You can't be hung up on, well, when I signed you back in 2019, like, things happen. Harper got injured. Reese Hoskins is no longer here. You changed GMs in that time period, for goodness sake.
Well, I'm just saying, to go back to the guy's point, though, because his original point was you should move Turner to center, to which I said he had paid $300 million. They're not going to move him to center field. And his retort was they paid Harper that much money and moved him to first base eventually. That was injury related.
Eventually.
That was injury related. Well, eventually. He's saying,
why not?
Why not eventually move Turner to center field? I can understand Turner has played center field before. It's not a wild thought.
It's not about yes, it's not a wild thought. The idea is that, though, maybe if you just would have not signed Max Kepler and would have signed a right-handed fielder, and maybe we could do the maybes all day.
Yeah, but listen, Kepler, they did not have a great option. His point is valid, though. Why not play Turner in center field? It's not wild. It's not crazy. Turner has played center field before. Okay, so it's not like he's asking to play a guy in a place that he's never played before. He has played center field, but that was years ago, and that was to get him up from the minors, just to get him on. Hey, we got this hotshot rookie. We want to find a place for him. Let's put him in center field. At this stage of his career, I don't think that he's all that excited about going back to play center field. That's different from Harper, who I think preferred to move to first base once he played. He moved to first base initially because of the injury. He could not throw from the outfield because of the elbow problem.
Correct.
So he was willing to go learn to play first base based on the injury that he sustained. Once he moved to first base, he ended up liking it and didn't want to move back to the outfield. That's a different situation than Turner. Turner, by the way, has played 45 games in center field in his career. And they all occurred back in
2016,
whatever year he
17?
came up.
Yeah.
So he's played 45 career games in center field. I don't know that you're going to say, hey, man, go play center field. Now, he's played 974 games at shortstop. He has played 85 games at second base, for what that's worth. I don't think 45 games in center field. He, by the way, hit 354 as a center fielder with a 390 on base percentage. Maybe he is a center fielder.
Well, according to that information, that limited sample size.
Yeah. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Our latest qualifier was Gabe in Northfield. Hey, Gabe, we'll see you on the 24th. We got football at 4 in 14 minutes. We're going to talk a little draft.
How excited you talk football and not about Sosa and Stott?
I like the conversation, though. I have no problem. Like, people act like if we don't agree on something, that if we all agreed on everything, the show would be a lot more boring for me to do. Hey, we all agree on everything. Okay, that's it. No, I like the fact that you have different opinions, and we all have different. We see things differently. We all feel differently about things. Just because I don't really need to see Sosa play every day. I understand there are people out there that think that he would be much better if he got the chance to play every day. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean I'm right. We just don't agree. I don't need to see Sosa play every day. Why? I think it will weaken the team's depth. Now, if you told me they made a trade, added another right-handed bat, a guy, like if Buddy Kennedy's up here, he can play second, he can play third. He doesn't play short, but now I have a guy who can do what Sosa's doing right now. If I take Sosa out of that role, I've now lost that guy from that role. And I think that's one of the things that makes this Phillies team a little deeper, is that they have a guy that plays three positions and can do all three. In fact, Sosa's the best defensive shortstop on the team. He's the best defensive second baseman maybe on the team. I don't know if he's the best third baseman, although Bohm's not a great third baseman either. But Sosa does struggle a little bit over at third. He's not a real third baseman. He could play third base. All right, more Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube. At Mike Gill Show. More Sports Bash on the way. Cole from LBI says, Mike loves to go back and forth on sports. We've been going back and forth on Nola not being a number 2 for a while now, LOL. We have been going back and forth on Nola being a number 2. And guess what, Cole? No longer is he a number 2. He would be a number 2 on a mediocre and bad team. But on this team, I don't think he's a number 2 anymore. But he's still good enough to be a number 2. He just doesn't need to be one on this one. I do love going back and forth. A lot of people don't agree with me. I totally understand that, and it doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, people act like because you don't agree, you're like, oh, no. No, if you agree with me all the time, that would stink. That would not be good. The fact that you disagree with me is what makes it fun and makes it great. And shoot me, I don't think Sosa should play every day. Oh, my Lord. Can you believe the guy on the radio said he doesn't believe Edmundo Sosa is an everyday player? He must really be off his rocker. I mean, are we serious, Clark? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, if I said, like, Bryce Harper shouldn't play every day, all right, now you can say you need your head examined. That's not what I believe. I just don't think Sosa really is going to change the trajectory of this season. That's all.
You can't even say it with a straight face.
Doing my best today. It is Happy Hour Friday. Some people may have partaken a little earlier. That's all.
I'm jealous.
Me too. Jeez. Sports Bash this hour was brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing and Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating service and installation for generations. 609-390-3907. Coming up, football at 4 is on the way. Andrew DeCecco is sitting in the big chair today. We'll talk some football with him. And don't forget, another chance for you to qualify for this year's Eagles draft party is on the way. Listen for that cue to call. It's right here on the Sports Bash Live. Plus, bonus chances all throughout the show. It could come at any time. Keep listening. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We talked a lot of draft yesterday with Adam Kaplan. Andrew DeCecco's in the house today on a happy hour Friday, and we're getting ready for the weekend. We got some football to get into. I like Andrew's piece over at InsideTheBirds.com. I want to talk a little bit about what Vic Fangio said. He said that he wants to see Cooper DeJean at nickel, and I thought that was some interesting stuff there because a lot of people, Andrew, wondering what's going to happen with Cooper. What are they going to do to replace Darius Slay? Did Vic Fangio give us a little insight on that yesterday?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, he spoke to NBC Sports Philadelphia's John Clark at the Phillies game on Wednesday night, and he offered some. You don't usually hear that from Vic, but I thought it was interesting to hear that he would like Cooper DeJean to stay at nickel because Cooper DeJean has the ability to play on the boundary, and the Eagles have maintained that they viewed him as an outside corner. But when you're so effective playing inside, he's already one of the best players at his position, and really nickel is a starting position in the game right now and very vital. Not everybody can do it effectively, and Cooper certainly can. And I think that it really speaks to his acclimation to the position. And it's a tough position because you have to worry about receivers that have a two-way go. You have a lot more space to cover. You have to be mindful of run fit. So he's able to do that at a high level. So I think it would serve the Eagles well to keep him right where he is and then figure out the spot opposite Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, look at the options that they have. So you keep him at the nickel spot, and obviously you got Quinyon Mitchell there. What do you see across him on the other side now? If it looks like DeJean is out of the picture, because I guess some people were wondering, are they going to move him out there? They get a different nickel. What's now the camp battle possibly? And then I guess we can follow up with some draft options there. But let's first see what they have in-house to replace Darius Slay.
So it's going to be right now on paper as the roster stands, Keely Ringo, who's entering his third season, and veteran Adoree Jackson, who's approaching 30 years old. I mostly view Adoree Jackson through the lens of an Isaiah Rodgers. I think he's going to kind of fulfill that role. Doesn't have anywhere close to the upside of an Isaiah Rodgers at this point. I think Isaiah is a player they're going to really miss. But Keely Ringo is a player who, let's not forget last summer, and I was there at every practice, with the first team, it was Keely Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers alternating every day with the first team opposite Slay. Then eventually Isaiah Rodgers leapfrogged him in the pecking order, and Keely Ringo was seeing time with the second team. And then Quinyon Mitchell, of course, leapfrogged both of those players. But I think it was really telling that Isaiah Rodgers was able to stay in front of Keely Ringo all season. He played just 11% of the snaps last year. Immensely athletic. He has the size, the physicality. Was flagged a ton last summer in training camp. Gets a little handsy, but we'll see. Because sometimes when you've now had two full off seasons for Ringo. He's very young, younger than Quinyon Mitchell. So maybe he's able to put it together. I still think the likely course of action will be that the Eagles draft a corner to compete because they're not just going to hand either player the role there. But I don't know that either option right now is overly enticing. At least in my opinion, from what I've seen.
So let's talk a little bit about that spot in the draft, Andrew. What do we know? What do we think about, 32? Is that a spot you like corner? Is there a depth at corner? Is there a guy you would trade up for that you would say, if this guy's in the 20s, that's a guy I would target? So give us some thoughts of that cornerback position in this year's draft, specifically 32, maybe second round in there or a trade up.
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. So at the end of the first round, there's two players that I would not rule out that should fall within that range. And those players are Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky, 5'11", 185, extremely fluid, really good ball skills, around a 4.2 at the NFL Scouting Combine. And Savone Revel, the cornerback from East Carolina. I kind of have either the Eagles or the Chiefs are two teams that I sort of have highlighted as potential options at the back end of the first round. And then if you look in the second round, Notre Dame's Ben Morrison is a player who I like quite a bit, more of a nickel type of player, but the other two players that I mentioned are outside corners. So the Eagles are in a position right now where they're going to take the best player available. That could be a tight end like a Mason Taylor. That could be a cornerback. That could be Donovan Ezaraku. Like, they're in a really good spot right now, I think, if they stand pat at 32.
Yeah, and 32 is a spot where it's very enticing. They've traded out of that spot. The last time they won the Super Bowl, they ended up getting a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and then a second-round pick in the future. And you wonder if Howie Roseman can pull a deal off, something like that. If you're right now, I know sight unseen, we don't know what's happened to this board, but do you like staying at 32, or are you more of a proponent of moving back and trying to add, knowing that they have a ton of picks the next couple of drafts?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, if I'm the Eagles, I'm trying to focus on volume and maintain the picks that you have. Maybe you move a couple of those fifth rounders to move up in the fourth, or even move up from 96 in the third round. But I kind of like where they're at on the board at 32, because depending on how the board falls, you could be looking at a Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss, who the thought of pairing him opposite Jalen Carter, I think for the Eagles has to be really tantalizing, and knowing that he can be an interior disruptor. And defensive tackle is such an important position right now for the Eagles, because Milton Williams played 48% of the snaps last year, and both Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo played 37% of the snaps, and now one of those players, or both, are going to be asked to undertake a more prominent role, and they're banking an awful lot on both to do that. So depending on how the board falls, I think that staying at 32 would be a really beneficial spot for the Eagles to stay.
Yeah, and Andrew, you could probably further this, because of the areas that they need. You mentioned defensive tackle. You can get a guy at 32, and he could probably come. Most of these guys, Milton Williams, a third-round pick. Moro Ojomo was either a 6'7" or an undrafted guy.
He was a seventh-round pick, yeah.
There you go. That's a position, though, where you don't have to be in the top 5 to 10 to get a player who can help you out almost immediately.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think you're going to get an immediate starter. Like, if you look at defensive tackle, I believe that someone like a Walter Nolan would be able to be plugged in opposite Jalen Carter and be a day one starter. Should they take an offensive lineman, a guard like a Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, that would make some sense. And he would be, depending on how they feel about Tyler Steen, because I do believe in Tyler Steen. So I'm not in that same camp that I feel like they should draft a guard in the first round. But if they do, that's a plug-and-play starter. Donovan Ezra-Rocker, the edge rusher from Boston College, if they take him at 32, I don't believe that he's starting over Azeez Ojulari or Jalen Hunt, unless he just completely lights the world on fire in training camp. But he needs to add some weight and strength to his frame as well. So it really depends on which way they go.
I was going to say, you brought up the guard and Tyler Steen. Sounds like you like Tyler Steen. And they brought in Kenyon Green, the first-round pick from a couple of years ago. Is that the competition? Do they look to add more competition? It sounds like that's a possibility, too, at right guard at that spot. One area I want to look and get your take on is, I think there's one spot that's still kind of interesting, and that's safety. Do you like what's in-house, or is there something in the draft that would intrigue you?
Yeah, I mean, personally, you know me, I never sugarcoat anything. I'm not overly intrigued with what they have there currently. Ray Blankenship's fine as a 2, but to ask him to step up and be that number one safety, I think that's a little bit presumptuous. I don't know that that's not in his makeup, because when he was miscast as the one, he was grossly exploited, and you saw how he thrives when he had a player playing beside him like a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who can kind of alleviate some pressure and allow him to kind of roam a little bit more freely. Sidney Brown's the wild card here, because obviously the Eagles drafted him in the third round. He does have some enticing traits, but he's kind of plays the game like a wild stallion. He's like a heat-seeking missile out there. And in order to be able to play and be a starter and really be a prominent piece in Vic Fangio's defense even, you have to be a player that he can trust on the field, that's going to make the tackles, that's going to be assignment sound. And unless you can do that, unless he's able to kind of flip that switch and transition and maybe alter his game a little bit, it's kind of hard to see that path. So I think that they need to draft the safety early, because I just don't think they're good enough there. And I think pairing Blankenship and Brown together, particularly, it's kind of redundant, because they can kind of do similar things. And I think they need a more rangy back-end player, maybe like a Andrew Makuba from Texas or a Xavier Watts from Notre Dame.
Andrew, let's read the tea leaves a little bit on the tight end position. I know you wrote about this at Inside the Birds as well, Goddard's future here. Nick Sirianni did comment on him. I don't know if that was a glowing review of whether he'll be back or not. Quote, right now, he's on our football team. When you hear that, that generally doesn't sound very promising.
No, it certainly doesn't. And that kind of had me alter the way that I'm looking at the draft, just based on it didn't sound like if, it sounded very much like when there's a parting of the ways of Dallas Goedert. And when you really look at all of their moves this offseason, a lot of it has been with the trying to keep that nucleus intact and prioritizing younger players and really trying to build this thing the right way for sustained success. And given the 2025 charge that Goddard has, it's kind of hard to envision him on the roster barring a drastic restructure. So as a result, and I just wrote a story about this on InsideTheBirds.com that's going to come out this afternoon, I listed all of the tight ends not named Dallas Goedert that the Eagles currently have on their roster, and you'll quickly see that they don't have a lot of optionality there, or even someone who can be a bridge starter, because Grant Calcaterra did some nice things as a pass catcher, but he's very deficient in the blocking department. That's not going to be good. That's not going to cut it, I should say. So I think the Eagles' most logical course of action would be to draft a tight end probably in the first 2 rounds. And if I'm the Eagles and Mason Taylor's on the board at 32, I'm thinking long and hard about trying to get that tight end from LSU, because he does have that ability that reminds me a little bit of Zach Ertz. And even in the second round, you're looking at someone like a Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, or in the third round, a Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, or an Elijah Arroyo. But the further you get, the more you're banking on rapid development. I don't think that's going to be conducive to, success in the short term. So I think the first 2 rounds would be the best spot to grab one.
Hypothetically, Warren's fallen. He's at 22. Do you move up to get Tyler Warren?
I don't know that I would, because you have to factor in what you would be having to use for ammo to trade up there. Tyler Warren, when the season starts, is going to be 25 years old. The Eagles typically don't go that route. Even though he could transform the dimensions of the offense, I still think that if you hang tight at 32, you could get a player in Mason Taylor, who sources have told me that there's a lot of teams out there that have him ranked above Colston Loveland. So that's not bad. You get the second best tight end in the draft, who runs terrific routes, finds a soft spot in zones, can be a security blanket for your quarterback, and at 20 years old, there's plenty of room to grow.
All right. I thought it was interesting that Nick Sirianni, who hasn't had any OTAs or anything yet, was going on and on about Avery Williams. I can't say enough about him. So is he a guy that you're going to keep a closer eye on when they get outside?
Yeah, that was something that I jotted down. It may be a footnote to some, but he went back over Avery Williams. He mentioned him in that first group of players that he mentioned, and then he went back and seemed really intrigued with the idea of getting him in the building and working with him. And obviously he has a background as a returner. I remember watching him at Boise State with the Broncos, and he was a very fluid cornerback, explosive, smaller, 5'9", 185, but I really liked his movement ability, and he always was an electric returner. But he played running back in high school, and the Atlanta Falcons used him at running back sparingly in 2022. But based on what Nick Sirianni said, it sounds like they may get him involved a little bit on offense, if you're kind of reading between the lines there. And he does have some explosive type of traits. Not an every down player by any stretch, or he's more of a, you kind of sporadically work him in and maybe catch the defense napping. But, yeah, that made my antennas raise a little bit as a journalist for sure.
All right, a couple more real quick. I know, Andrew, it's Football at 4 on a Friday. A couple listener questions here off the text board. Guys, the Eagles, would they look to draft a quarterback in this draft? If so, anybody you're interested in? He says Dylan Gabriel if he falls far enough. Is this, they did like to stock up on quarterbacks for a while, but is this a draft where they need one in those, they got 4 fifth-rounders?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of needs that this team has right now, and quarterback is not one of them. But I can understand the logic there, being the quarterback factory that they are. Kyle McCord from Syracuse is a player that I really like. He has local ties, but he seems to be rising a little bit. I think it's a little too early, and a player that I don't believe the Eagles would be taking, given their needs elsewhere on the roster. So, given everything, they traded for Darian Thompson-Robinson. I don't think that would be – not in this draft.
All right, Mike, can you ask Andrew – I will right now, sir. Do the Eagles need to target a wide receiver in this draft?
Yeah, I think they do. I absolutely think they do. On day 3, though, because now you don't know – you don't want to go into the offseason with Anais Smith and Johnny Wilson, because there's not a lot behind them. Danny Gray's on the practice squad, but you're essentially assuring Johnny Wilson and Anais Smith the roster spot. You got to provide some competition there. You don't just want to put all your eggs in their basket. And I think that there's a player, Nick Nash from San Jose State. really big-time player, more of a slot receiver that I really like on day 3, if they even go day 2, depending on what they do with their picks. Ty Felton from Maryland is a player that is not talked about nearly enough, a 3-level threat. He runs a 4.3. He jumps out of the building, and his head coach, Mike Loxley, at Maryland's Pro Day, kind of likened him a little bit to Devontae Smith.
Andrew DeCecco, draft season's here. We'll get more in it. We'll get more listener questions next time he's on right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, a happy hour Friday edition of Football at 4. Thanks, buddy. Have a good weekend, man.
Yeah, man, you as well.
All right, we'll talk to Andrew next week. Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube at Mike Gill Show. We'll keep it here for about 10 minutes or so. Draft-wise, wide receiver, I agree with Andrew. I think you do got to explore a guy. He said day 3. You try to find that slot guy. They haven't really been able to hit on that guy. That mid to late round guy that just kind of, adds to the offense in creative ways. Jet sweeps, bubble screens, stuff like that. Speedster. They've drafted so many guys like in round 5 and 6, and they just haven't worked out. Remember the one year they drafted like John Hightower. Who was the guy that the Eagles had for years, and they just kept the fast guy, really fast?
Quez
Watkins, yeah. They had him. He just could not be consistent enough. And look, when you're a late-round pick, yeah, you're sometimes you're not consistent enough. That's part of the problem. But they haven't been able to find that guy later on that has kind of worked out for them. And maybe this is the draft where they do that. Maybe this is the draft where they take a guy in the 4th round and they're able to kind of get something out of him. And I don't know, do you think they need, with Dotson still here, and of course the 2 guys they have, but do you think after Dotson, do they need to improve on Dotson, or do they need to improve on the 4th guy?
Well, I think the answer to that depends on, are you looking for someone to eventually replace Dotson because you don't think you're going to be able to re-sign him in a year or 2? Or are you trying to say that, you wanted Britton Covey to be more and now you want to go out and get somebody to fulfill that role? Are you possibly looking at, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name they drafted last year from Texas A&M. I mean, are you saying that he's not what you hoped?
Not what he hoped, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're ready to make those decisions yet, but something to think about. The other thing is, somebody talked about a quarterback. They made the trade of
Kenny
Pickett, which essentially, in return, they got a quarterback back in DTR during Thompson Robinson, and then now it looks like they're going to elevate
Tanner McKee.
You can see I'm not quite in football season right now.
I'm here to help.
Tanner, yeah. And I was at the game that Tanner McKee started, too, by the way.
So was I.
Tanner McKee, they elevate him now to the backup quarterback. So I don't really know that you need to draft a quarterback. If you're going to get a quarterback in, it's probably going to be an undrafted guy that you think has some traits.
Also, we got to remember that sometimes the team acquire guys in the offseason because they need people to fill out the 90-man roster. And sometimes they take a shot on a guy and he impresses. Look at what happened with a guy like Reed Blankenship. That was an undrafted guy, and they were like, you know what, he's interesting. Let's bring him into camp and see what happens.
Well, they've done a good job finding guys like that.
T.J. Edwards is another one.
T.J. Edwards. They've done it with linemen. A lot of times they'll bring a lineman in, undrafted, and he kind of works out for them.
So, there's a possibility that, whoever that wide receiver we're talking about is might not even be drafted. They may say, hey, look, we're trying to prioritize the trenches.
Might not be, but generally you're not going to see an undrafted rookie free agent make the team as a wide receiver. That's more far-fetched. Normally
true.
The teams that the positions that make it are like defensive tackle, offensive tackle. You mentioned safety. You don't generally see maybe a running back.
Definitely running back. There's been a bunch of those.
Yeah, running back is a spot that there's just not a lot of value on, so you don't draft them. So they fall out, and you find a guy, and you give him a shot, and he impresses.
Yeah, I'm curious about, because Andrew was talking about the fact that, the Eagles probably want, if they're going to replace Goddard, a tight end who's going to fit a certain role, right? And it's like, well, if the tight end has a role and you already got 3 top receivers, how deep do you want to go with
This is the interesting part about this team, though. Okay? Because of the state of the roster, they're just so
They're set in a lot of
they're
positions.
set in a lot of positions, and they have so many draft choices coming up. So it's like you can't have a Pro Bowler at every position.
Right.
But they're putting themselves in a position that they can almost.
They're getting close.
They're getting close to where they don't need a left tackle. They don't need a left guard. They don't need a center. They really don't need a right guard.
They probably have the right guard already on the roster.
I mean, I would have no problem if Tyler Steen was the starting right guard to start this season, or if Kenyon Green beat him out.
Right.
You don't need a right tackle. If Goddard's still here, you don't need a tight end. You don't need a running back. You don't need two receivers. You can make an argument that every guy I just mentioned could be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Okay? On defense, you got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro
Smith.
Ojomo as interiors.
Oh, interior.
You don't really have to improve on any of those three. If you went in next year and they're the three, you're still pretty solid. Nolan Smith as an edge rusher on one side, and Jalix Hunt. I mean, obviously, if you said, hey, Jalix Hunt, he's just such an unknown.
You're probably going to want to draft an edge rusher just to have another body out there.
Right, but I'm saying you could say Carter could be a pro. Carter is a all-pro level.
If Ojolari is healthy, what is he?
Yeah, he could be like a Josh Sweat.
Okay.
Not a Pro Bowler, but very good.
Gotcha.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm
I'm just trying to gauge how you're looking at
just saying. So
Yeah.
you have a guy who's an all-pro at
interior tackle.
interior. Nolan Smith and the other group of guys, I don't know that you have a Pro Bowler in there, but
They're all more than serviceable.
Quinyon Mitchell can be an all-pro level player.
100%.
Cooper DeJean.
Yep.
Zach Bond was an all-pro.
Yep.
I mean, the safety spot, you probably could say, okay, we don't really have a Pro Bowl guy there, but we're solid at one spot, the other spot. So you need a corner, a safety, and probably,
A pass rusher. Like one more.
yeah.
Because guess what? All the guys we just mentioned, almost all of these guys were drafted. So the Eagles already are going to want to look at the draft probably and say, let's find our next Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt.
All right, Sports Bash Live, that's Football at 4. It's powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Mike Gill. We got so much more coming up. The Nuggets are on the way. Nick Earnshaw's coming with plenty of Nuggets for today because it's the Phillies and the Dodgers. He's actually going to the game tonight. He'll be there for 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, we've got Matt Gelb still to come from The Athletic with the latest on the Phils as they get ready to take on the Dodgers. The lineup is out. We gave it to you a little earlier. I'll read for you one more time real quick. It's Schwarber in the leadoff spot tonight, followed by Turner, Harper, Bohm, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the Phillies lineup with that same look as it's been against right-handed pitching. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm. Kepler hits 5 tonight. Castellanos is 6. Real Muto is 7. Stott 8. And Brandon Marsh hits in the 9 hole. It's Jesus Luzardo making his second start for the Phillies tonight. Yamamoto gets the call for the Dodgers, and that game will be a big one at Citizens Bank Park. We'll have it covered at 5:30 tonight with Matt Gelb. But first, I need caller 7 right now, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Caller number 7. Right now, you are entered for a spot in this year's Eagles draft party where you can win a pair of Eagles Club Box tickets for a game at Lincoln Financial Field to see the Super Bowl champions this year. Plus, we have prizes every hour in our longest drive competition at Top Golf Swing Suite at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Every hour, we'll play. We have different tickets and overnight stays and prizes and gift cards. The earlier you get there, the more prizes you can win. Caller 7, 609-573-3776. You must be present to win at Top Golf Swing Suite, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. All qualifiers will get free parking for the show, so don't worry about that. Good luck. 4:30 on a Friday. Happy Hour Friday, everybody. What's up? Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video of the show on your home TV, laptop, tablet, or phone. It's Friday. I'm done with this day. Too many Sosa people out there. Is Nick Earnshaw one of them? It's time for Nick's Nuggets right now on the Sports Bash, brought to you by the Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. What's up, Nuggets?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? Yeah, I mean, I have to start with this Sosa conversation. It's fascinating to me. Listen, all right, I love Sosa. The guy has been mashing the baseball to start the year, okay? But I'm going to agree with you. Usually, you're talking about agreeing and disagreeing. I think that's what makes the Nuggets segment great. Usually, for the most part, you and I disagree, okay? For the most part. But I'm going to agree with you right here, Mike Gill. Sosa is not an everyday player, okay? Edmundo Sosa is a perfect role player, bench guy, all right? Utility player. You can play with second, you play with short, third base. Great. Have him in the infield. Might not work out in the outfield. Okay, fine. You just want to play him in the infield. That's okay. He's not an everyday player. He's great in spurts. A guy gets hurt, he's the guy you want backing up a Stott, a Turner, a Bohm to fill in that position. He's been great. However, you do want him to get a few at-bats here because he's been so hot as of late. So I can understand why people want to see Edmundo in the lineup. He's not an everyday player. He's great in spurts. He's great in short stints. Guys get hurt, whatever it may be. I'm with you. You can't play Edmundo every day. He's a great, great role player, not a starter.
Yeah, listen, and maybe if they gave him an opportunity to play 150 games, we would all be wrong. I don't need to see that. I like the role that he's in right now. I'm not saying that he couldn't perform. To me, he is what he is. He's a 250 hitter, probably low on base. I love the fact that he comes in and gives this team what he's really good in is giving this team a little energy, a little something that they generally don't have. And you pop him in there a couple days here and a couple days there, and he provides a spark. If you play him every day, I think that spark is not as significant.
That's the key word. He provides a spark, and that is what you need off of the bench. You need a guy like Edmundo Sosa. Every team needs him. Not every team has an Edmundo Sosa. The Phillies do, so utilize him in his role where he succeeds and where he helps the team most, which is in spurts, giving this team a spark, coming off the bench, being an energy guy, right? Getting a big hit here, getting a big hit there. Like in tonight's game, if there's a matchup they like, against a left-handed pitcher, they want to put Edmundo in. Boom, do it. All right, maybe replace Stott out there because Edmundo's a good glove too. You can play him in the field, and you're not losing that much defensively if you take a Stott out at second base late in the ball game against a really good team like the Dodgers. So yeah, I love him come off the bench. I understand people, want to play him. He's had a great start to the season. Not taking anything away.
I feel like people don't look at baseball the same way though. It's like people look at baseball as it's your 9 guys, and then the bench guys are bench guys. Like in basketball, you have your 5 starters, but you have the 6th man that comes in, or you have like a guy who's a 3-point specialist or a defensive stopper. Baseball, a little different. People just view it as it's the 9 starters and then the bench guys. Yeah. But the game has evolved so much that so many teams play based on analytics. Left-handed pitcher, right-handed pitcher. Look at what we were talking about this with Alex Faust yesterday, who called the Yankee-Arizona series. He's like, those two teams don't use the same lineup ever. It's all based on who's pitching, what hand the guy throws with. The game has just changed a lot, and I know a lot of people just don't really want to, kind of accept that. It's But,
I get it. I get it. Listen, he's been hot. You want to ride the hot hand sometimes. He's great in his role. He started off the season hot. You know who also started the season off hot? Kyle Schwarber, okay? Kyle Schwarber started the season off hot. Guys start off the season hot sometimes, okay? And Edmundo has been one of those guys. Doesn't mean he should start every day. Bryson Stott's a guy you've developed, has gone through your system. You want to give him every opportunity to succeed. Stott's going to be the guy at second base, okay? He's a great defender as well. But Edmundo, you need energy guys. You need guys off the bench to give you a spark late in the game, matchup-wise. Sosa's going to start games this year. It's not like he's not going to start games. It's like he's not going to be every day. Like that's not his role. That's not his position at the moment. And you can mix and match throughout the year anyway. So
I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I actually think it's adorable that people want him to start every day. It's like, oh, it's really cute. Let's play Sosa every day. He's a 250 hitter, and he's this. I mean, it's like, really? We really hung up on whether Edmundo Sosa should play every day or Stott. Like, the guy sends me the numbers, and they're the exact same. Like, they both hit 250. They're both on base 310, and neither one of them has much power. All right, fine. You want to see Sosa every day? You sold me. I'm in. Play Sosa every day. I mean, really, this is what, like, this is
There's not a big drop-off, Mike. I mean, there's not that much of a drop-off or an upgrade from playing Sosa over Stott. They're not.
No, but as I said, if the biggest complaint you have right now is that you think Edmundo Sosa should play more and bat ninth, great. That means like third world problems here, right? You're having, oh my God, I think Sosa is marginally better than Bryson Stott is. I don't even disagree. Like, to me, Stott has been a complete disappointment last year. Now, according to reports, it was something to do with this elbow problem. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that. I don't know that that's accurate. He had a pretty good year 2 years ago. He hit 280. Yep. He had a solid season. But I've seen no evidence that Bryson Stott should be penciled in 150 games a year just because he's Bryson Stott. I have no problem with Sosa playing in that way. But it's not like Sosa is going to go out there and hit 310 with a 340 on base and pop 15 to 20 home runs if he plays every single day. He's going to probably hit about 259, 311 on base, which is exactly what you get from Bryson Stott.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just because he got off to such a crazy start. You know, he was batting 600, right? Like, it was ridiculous. Like, he was just getting ahead every time he went up to the dish. I think that's what got people really excited. And you had Rob Thompson the other night. I mean, he was asked about it. I was down at the ballpark. I'll be back there now again tonight. Are you going to try and get Edmundo more at bats here early in the season? And he wants to. He wants to find a way to get him in the lineup. I just don't know how you do that at this point because you're trying to see what Bryson Stott can do. Listen, I'm all for trying to get Edmundo in the lineup, get more at bats, maybe late in the game here and there, just to get him, in the game because he's been so hot. The bat has been really good. So I'm cool with that, getting him in the game somehow. He doesn't have to start, though. Like, he could be a spot play later in the ball game, a replacement, get him an at-bat, and, see where you go to try and spark some energy, especially since they've had a lot of trouble against starting pitching this year to start the year. But I will digress. Edmundo, he'll get some at-bats. He'll be here. He's going to play a decent amount. He's a role player. He's been really hot to start the season. Let's not get carried away here. It's April what? 4th? Today's April 4th.
Today's April 4th. We're 7 games into the season.
But it is a big series. And I will say, Mike, against the Dodgers tonight, I would like to see normal uniforms. And nugget number 2, the City Connects are back tonight. Your favorite uniform of all time, Mike Gill. The City Connects are back tonight. And there's a new City Connect batting practice hat. Now, this early in the season, this is a great matchup. Dodgers, Phillies. Dodgers haven't lost a game yet. The Phillies are going to be chasing the Dodgers in the NL. They won the World Series last year, et cetera, et cetera. Shohei Ohtani, we get the whole gist, okay? But it's going to be on Apple TV. Already just minus, okay? It's a minus there. You're already down a letter grade to a B. But then you're not going to have the aura of red versus blue, Phillies, Dodgers. It's going to be the City Connects on a Friday night on Apple Television against the Dodgers. I want to feel old school baseball in the unis, the pinstripes against the Dodgers, not the City Connect. Mike, I'm a little disappointed in this one tonight.
City Connect hat. Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
brutal.
A terrible cap.
That's awful. I'm sorry. That's awful. I can't stand it.
It's real bad.
It's like, all right, so for the listening audience on the radio, if you're not watching on the YouTube platform or X, it's the blue with the weird lettering P with 2 stars on it, navy blue brim. I'm just, these City Connects still don't do it for me. They just don't.
No, they're better than, I will say this, they're better than the new Colorado City Connects. Have you seen them?
Yes, I did see it. They're okay. They're all right. I don't know. This is not, it just doesn't feel Phillies. It feels Union. It feels more Union to me. They could have did something else. They could have done something else. Now, like Baltimore, great City Connect. They have a fantastic City Connect uniform. The Reds, Another great City Connect uniform. Phillies, it's not the worst of all time, I guess, but it's still not great. I mean, I'm out. Like the fact it's going to be the Phillies versus Dodgers and it's going to be blue versus blue, it just looks weird to me. The aura, it's not there. There's no aura for that. I want to see Bryce go yard in a red pinstripe uniform or the powder blues, the old school powder blues. One of them, something, Mike. I can't do the City Connects. Can't do it.
City Connect. Listen, all these City Connects, not many of them have really jumped off the page and said, this one's really good. They got a really cool one. That team's just really good. Get rid of the City Connects. They're not connecting with the fans at all.
They're not connecting with you. They're not connecting with me. There's a problem.
No, I'm
a uniform guy.
Yeah, we're different generations. You might say, wow, you're the old crotchety guy. You don't like them either.
No, I mean, there's only a handful that I really do enjoy for the most part. It's the Reds, Baltimore. The new Washington National ones weren't bad this year. There's
the Washington Nationals this year I didn't like. I liked theirs last year.
No. See, I like this year's rather than last year's. I know it was the cherry blossom last year, right?
No, see, what I liked about their ones last year, this year I didn't like. The same reason I like the Phillies. The color has nothing to do with the team. There's no connect to the actual team. They had the baby blue. They're not baby blue. They're red. They're navy blue. You gave them baby blue jerseys. But the City Connects last year, they had the same color scheme, but they just added something to connect to their city. That's the point. Connect to the city, but don't alter the uniform. They did a good job of keeping the uniform looking like it was and just adding the cherry blossom, which is a really connect to the D.C. area. So if you're from D.C., the uniform didn't change, but you got that connection of the cherry blossom. That's what they got, the spirit of it.
They got the spirit of it. They didn't get the look, though. They got the spirit. Great. They got the spirit. The look, no. I was out on the unis as they looked. And we got Jeff chiming in on YouTube. Terrible hat. Terrible. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest Google it or turn on the X platform or YouTube at Mike Gill Show because we're showing it up on the screen right now. And I can't. It's going to look bad on television. And it's good. I remember I went to the first City Connect game last year. I was sitting in the stands last season, and it just didn't feel Phillies to me. It just did not feel Phillies. It feels weird looking at that. I don't know. I did buy one of like the jerseys. They weren't too bad. My brother, I have a younger brother, loves the City Connect. Loves
now,
it.
Listen,
he got a Harper one as soon as they were ready to be sold.
Now, listen, I'm not a big fan of the red, so I like the blue better. But even I, as a fan who likes blue better.
What do you mean you're not a fan of the red? What do you mean you're not a fan of the red? What's that mean?
You're not letting me finish what I'm saying. If you ask me to pick two colors of what I like better, red or blue, I like blue better than I like red. But blue has no connect. That navy blue and yellow has no connection to the Phillies. So therefore, I prefer the red jerseys, even though I like the color navy blue better than I like red.
Technically, it has a connection to the city because of the flag. The city's
get that
flag.
Connection.
That's the connection.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's kind of the point you were making with Washington. They connected with the cherry blossoms. And then this one, they're going city flag. I mean, you know.
See, my point is they didn't alter the colors of their uniforms, the Nationals. They added something. Like if you wanted to take, the Liberty Bell and make that a part of the design or something, these teams should have kept the colors of the teams. You go to a game, you buy a City Connect jersey. Now you go to a game on a night where they're not wearing them. You stand out like a sore thumb. You're wearing a blue and yellow jersey. You look like you're at a Union game.
Yeah, it feels totally Union, totally soccer. By the way, the other day, the Philadelphia Eagles posted, if you could pick 3 uniforms, which would it be? You had sent it to me. So I want to ask you, Mike Gill, 3 Eagles uniform combinations, what would yours be?
What's funny? I looked at that thing. I got to look at it again because I don't quite remember the pairings of it. But
they had everything on there.
Yeah, they had see, I haven't seen the Eagles ever use the one with the old school white helmet. That's the one that I like the most, that I want to see them try to go to.
So you want to go helmet, old school Kelly Green white uni?
Yes, the old school Kelly Green white helmet is the one that I like the best of all of them.
See, I love the new style Kelly Green. I think the new style is absolutely fantastic. That should be the home uniform. From now until eternity should be the home uniform.
Well, you're going to get to wear it. They're going to get 4 chances
4.
to wear it now. So you saying you think they're going to wear it 4 times this year at the link?
I don't. So is it one? So is the uniform rule, is it one uniform you can wear 4 times? Or is it just an alternate uniform? Because they've gone black unis before. That's considered an alternate, right?
I think you can wear an alternate uniform 4 times, up to 4 times. So you can use the Kelly Greens 4 times. You could use, I guess, the black jersey once and then 3. So there you go. All right, if you're watching the show on YouTube and on X, there you go. Those are the color combinations that they asked.
Yes.
I think I would go, I like 3.
Okay. 5's the best. I mean, 5 is Kelly Green, what they wore. They're undefeated, by the way, in the new Kelly Greens. They're undefeated. So I'm all for this rule. Wear them wear the Kelly Greens every single time. 4 times. That's 4 wins right there, Mike Gill.
Well, they won in every color they wore, so that's a stupid point. 7 is way out.
Yeah, I'm out on the what is it?
All
The midnight
green.
green on midnight green
Yeah.
pants. No, that is out.
That's
with
out.
you there.
9 is out. The black jersey with the midnight green pants.
Yes, I agree with the midnight green pants were a bad decision. Just a bad decision back in
So
the day.
7 and 9 are out.
I
mean,
like the
8
white, the black
8's
pants.
not terrible. 8's not terrible, but
Black
I
on
mean,
black, yeah. That's
the
a good
black
one.
on black's not bad, but the Eagles aren't black. That's not their color. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
I mean, it is. It's a part of their logo. Listen, get rid of the black, get rid of the midnight green, get rid of the white. Go Kelly Green, all in. I'm all in on Kelly Green. Make it the official uniform. Official.
I like 4 too. By the way, AJ Brown looks sweet in the green top with the white pant.
He does. Listen, you know me. I'm a big Kelly Green guy. They win in the new Kelly Green.
Everybody falls for the gimmick. The Kelly
It's
Green
not a gimmick.
is a gimmick.
It's slick.
It's not.
It's slick. All right, enough of uniform talk. Before
You
I
ever
get
see anybody walk around with Kelly Green clothes on?
Yes, I was a neon kid in 7th grade all the time. I'm just saying, like I wore neon shirt, neon shorts, neon socks, neon shoes.
I didn't say neon. I said Kelly Green.
Well, that color, that shade. They're all in the same family here.
Yeah.
All in the same family. Kelly Green all day.
There's a reason that you don't walk into a store and they have a whole wall of Kelly Green outfits.
Well, you do now because, I mean, that's like the number 1 selling jersey is the Kelly Green. Everyone loves it. I mean, there was lines out the link when they brought it back.
Everybody likes a gimmick. The Kelly Green is in Mundo Sosa. It's hitting 600 for the first week of the season, and everybody goes out and buys it.
How are you going to equate the Kelly Greens and Mundo Sosa? That's a crazy comparison. Anyway, I'm out. Kelly Greens are the best. We're leaving it there. All right, nugget number 3. Here we go. I want to stick with the Phillies a little bit, kind of reverting back to it. Before today's game, there was a report that Andrew Painter threw 33 pitches across 2 innings of batting practice today. And according to Rob Thompson, that there's going to be a decision on Andrew Painter coming within the next couple of days on what they're going to do with him.
I like to hear that. Because I've said during opening day when we did the show at Maynard's, I feel like once Painter gets into the rotation, it will be hard-pressed to get him out of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, you get him in there. Geez, I mean, who do you kick off? I mean, who do you kick out? Is it Rangers? Ranger the odd man out? You can't kick Christopher Sanchez out.
Sosa.
You mean Walker?
No, I'm just kidding. Well, Walker's not going to be in the rotation. Come on.
I mean,
I don't know what they're going to do. I said I don't know what they're going to. They're going to have a hard decision to make here. If Painters gets into the rotation,
True.
Who gets bumped out? Now they said they might go to a 6-man rotation later on in the year. But if Painter pitches really well, let's say he comes up and he's Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
What do you do? By the way,
it's a good problem to have.
Here's a question I want you to possibly ask if it deems necessary tonight.
All right.
I'm not joking about this. We were talking about this earlier. Did they bail on playing Sosa in the outfield?
No one asked that the other night, I don't think.
No, I mean, so okay, hey, Sosa's not in the lineup tonight. A lot of people have been wondering, how you're going to get him more playing time. Is playing him in the outfield still on the table, or have you guys not? Are you not going that direction?
Nikki press conference. We'll be down there tonight, so I will try. I will do my best.
That's the question, right?
That's
there.
the question. All right, we'll report back.
All right, Monday. I want a full report on that.
All right, sounds good. By the way, I'm on the Locker Room Sunday with the Schweiner this week. I had to swap days. I got a lot going on. I'll be on ESPN Plus tomorrow doing the sidelines for UPenn lacrosse.
Good stuff. All right, that's the
week.
Nuggets.
Peace.
All right, Nuggets. We'll see you Monday.
I
want a full report on that. Nuggets are brought to you by the Hub gear that works as hard as you do. No one works as hard as the Nuggets do. And he's back on Monday with more Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Coming up, I want to congratulate, by the way, Ken from Cape May Courthouse. Ken, you are in, and right now you get a bonus chance to enter. Here's what you need to do. Text the word draft with your name and where you're from to 609-403-0973. First 3 text messages, draft, your name, and where you're from. You get an entry to this year's draft party, and that gives you a shot to win Eagles Club Box tickets for a game at Lincoln Financial Field at our Eagles draft party. Good luck. Final hour and a happy hour Friday, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform and YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe, hit the like button, do whatever you got to do, be a part of the show. A lot of ways you could do it. You can comment on the YouTube channel. You can comment on the X platform. You can text 609-403-0973. You can message us through the free mobile app on your phone powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. And we'll read off your messages all throughout the last hour of the show. Matt Gelb scheduled to join us at 5:30. He's at Citizens Bank Park for the Phillies and Dodgers, which really is the story of the weekend, right? There's not a better game, not a better matchup in baseball than that. Probably not in all of sports. You got the Phillies 5-1, the Dodgers 8-0. Both teams World Series aspirations. I can't imagine that there's a game or a series. Maybe the Final Four, I guess. Shame on me for forgetting the Final Four.
Yeah, the Final Four. Now, the good thing is the Final Four games are at 6:10 and 8:50. So you can still watch the Phillies game and then just roll over,
The games tomorrow, you mean?
Yeah, because the Phillies game tomorrow is at 4.
Oh, again with the 4 o'clock game.
I know, you and Alec Boehm. You and Boehm are hating.
I mean, on a Saturday, I guess it's a little better, but I just want to have, tomorrow night. hey, let's go out and watch the game somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. You get the Phillies, and then when the Phillies game is done, roll right into the Final Four.
Tonight, 6:40. I'm okay with the 6:40 start. I don't mind that so much. Some people don't like it. I don't mind the 6:40. I generally get home, 6:15.
I think people are more annoyed that it's Apple TV Plus than anything else.
Apple TV Plus. Oh, I have Apple TV Plus. It is annoying. But I will say, Apple TV Plus picture is outstanding.
The quality of the picture.
Yeah. By the way, I want to congratulate David in Seaville, George in Galloway, and Andrew in Summers Point. You guys are the latest qualifiers, and now you have a chance to win Eagles Club Box tickets for a game at the Link this year at Lincoln Financial Field. See the Super Bowl champs, and of course, there's a lot of other prizes. The earlier you get there, the better. We're going to do longest drive each hour. You got so we're at Top Golf for the show. We were there last year. It was an awesome spot. Place was packed last year. We hope to have more people this year. We're going to have more prizes this year. And every hour we'll do a longest drive competition. And if you hit the ball the longest on the tee, off the tee, you will win great prizes. We've got we got an overnight stay at Ocean. We've got tickets to some different shows that are coming up at Ocean this summer. We've got Ocean Casino gift cards, so if you go to Ocean, you can use the gift cards and use it to spend at any of the Ocean places there. And we'll have other great stuff happening all throughout the day. And then, of course, the grand prize, which is the Eagles Club Box tickets. Pair tickets, Club Box seats, sitting there right at the 50-yard line, watching the Birds play at a home game this year at Lincoln Financial Field. So we'll have another chance for you to qualify coming up this hour on the Sports Bash. One thing about the Phillies series tonight, you got Luzardo. This is his second time, but it's his first time at Citizens Bank Park, and he's got a big one against the Dodgers. We've been talking about odds. I had a poll question up today at Mike Gill Show that people have been voting on throughout the day. I'll update the poll question for the people out there right now. What long shot addition bet do you like more? Schwarber at plus 10,000, Sanchez at plus 2,000 to win the Cy Young, Schwarber to be the MVP, or Luzardo plus 6,000 to be the Cy Young. Now, 6,000 is obviously the best value, or actually 10,000 for Schwarber.
10,000.
Right now, the split is this: 40-40-18.
Interesting.
Yep. You got 20 minutes left to vote at Mike Gill Show. Go ahead and vote. Get a couple more votes in there. 40-40-18. That's the split.
Now, which one would Mike Gill choose?
I like Schwarber at 10,000 to 1, actually. I mean, I love the Sanchez at plus 2,000, but for plus 10,000 for Schwarber, I'm in on that.
You're all in on that.
Do I think he's going to win the MVP? I think it's a long shot with Ohtani. But, I mean, the start he's off to right now, And I said the other day, the fact that he's a free agent at the end of the year, that just drives him a little bit more and adds to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think also maybe the fact that could baseball
Andrew, sorry. Andrew says, is Sosa in the lineup? He is not. No Sosa today. Sorry.
That was good. I was going to ask you, do you think at all we get to a point where maybe voters due to baseball with Ohtani, what's happened in the NBA times, where people would just get like MVP fatigue, and it's
Good
like
question.
Like I'm not saying it's this year necessarily, but like, is there going to be a year coming up? People are like, all right, Ohtani's great every year. Like Jokic is great every year. Jordan is great every year. Like we got to give it to somebody else.
Definitely fair. Maybe. I mean, the problem has been there's really not an adversary, right? I mean, no one's close to him.
In years past, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a 1 year with him and Judge. They had the showdown because Judge had that monster year when Ohtani was with the Angels.
He was in the American League.
Right. In the National League, like last year, there was nobody close.
No. And
but if Schwarber has a monster year, maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's the threat.
At plus 10,000, I'm willing to take a shot.
Like a $10 shot?
Sure. That's a nice hit.
It's an amazing hit.
Right?
I take that.
Like, at the end of the day, you put $10 on it today, you forgot about it in September if he's not in the race.
Right, exactly.
But if he's in the race,
you're holding on to that for dear life.
You're a pig and you know what.
You're checking your phone every day.
You damn sure you are.
Mike, I wanted to get some thoughts from you because speaking of the Phillies, the owner and managing partner, John Middleton, he was on the Philly Show podcast.
Oh.
And, it's not every day you get to talk to the owner about, like, basically what ended up being whatever they wanted for about 30 minutes. And I thought one of the parts of the conversation was interesting. They brought up to him about the fact that fans had told Todd Zolecki and Jim Salisbury and Ruben Amaro Jr., because fans sent in some questions to the show. And one of the questions was about, hey, at the deadline, is there going to be any apprehension this year, right, about crossing that next apron or the tax bracket, paying out more money, maybe trading prospects? Like, are the Phillies at a point where, because they didn't do a lot in the offseason, that they might not be willing to go big at the deadline? And I thought Middleton's answer to this was very interesting. I want your reaction to what the Phillies owner had to say about if the Phillies are willing, Mike, to make big moves at the deadline.
This is Dave's call. It's not my call. It's Dave's call. And if you go back, for example, to last year, I mean, we looked hard. We talked to a lot of people. I mean, we pursued certain people very hard. And we made offers that I can't believe people rejected. But they did. And they were so, I won't say excessive, but so generous on our part that Dave and I looked at each other and just said, you know what, we're ambivalent. If the deal comes through, we're okay. If it doesn't go through, we're perfectly fine keeping these players that we've offered.
It's pretty interesting he said that we made offers that he couldn't believe that other teams turned down. I wonder if they turned them down because they're saying these guys made lousy offers. We don't know what the level of offer is. That's his opinion,
right?
You know?
But still, he's saying, hey, look, we're out there willing to make deals. Just not everybody wants to make a deal with us.
Well, I guess my point is you could sugarcoat it to make it sound like they went all in and nobody was willing to be a willing partner.
Now, how do you feel about him also saying it's Dave's call, though? About, like, basically, it's not like he's, Dombrowski doesn't have to go to Middleton and, like, double check with every little thing.
Yeah, I don't find that to be like, sure, he's the GM or he's the president of the baseball operations. Preston Mattingly is the GM, actually.
Yes.
People probably don't even know that. But
used to be Sam Fold.
He is the guy in charge of making the personnel decisions. In the end, John Middleton's the guy who has to approve the salary. That's all. He's not going to say, no, you can't make that trade. He's going to say, if you really think this trade is going to make us better, either yes, I will approve it expenditure-wise, or no, I will not.
Does that give you any faith, belief that the Phillies could go big at the deadline this year, that they were willing to do it last year?
Yeah, Yes and no. I think that they're willing to go big if the right move's there. Yes, I do think they will do that. Now, what is the right move? Is it a big move where the guy is only getting paid big for the rest of this year? Is it a big move where the guy is getting paid big? See, the one area where I think that I don't see a big move happening is the one where they get a Vlad Guerrero, and then then he's a free agent, and then you would have to pay him $600 million to stay here. I don't think they want to sign one of those contracts.
Well, part of the reason why I ask, Mike, is because John Middleton was also asked, are the Phillies willing to consider trading one of their big prospects, right? The Crawfords, the Millers, those kind of guys. Is there a scenario where the Phillies could go to the deadline and say, hey, we will trade those guys? Here was John Middleton's answer.
These guys are now, Painter's virtually here.
Right.
I think Crawford could easily be up here if he has a good, couple of months at AAA. Miller's could charge in hard. I think those three guys in particular, they're close enough to being MLB ready that I think you'd have to have a really spectacular trade to think about trading even any of those people.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving any of those guys. And he just said something that really I thought was the big part of that bite. Crawford's almost here, and if he has a good couple of months, you're wondering if by July, if he's down at AAA and he's tearing it up, if they've seen enough of this act in center field.
Now, let's remind folks, Crawford bats left-handed.
Yeah, I think they could use Marsh as trade bait.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. Does that mean that they take Marsh and say, we'll bring Crawford up, we'll trade Marsh, package him into a deal, and maybe, I don't know, get a right-handed hitter?
Well, I don't even know if they would get a right-handed hitter. I think maybe they would look for some bullpen, maybe a bullpen
okay.
arm, maybe a guy, that hey, Marsh is a good quality platoon player. He can hit 260 with 18 home runs for you in, 500 at-bats, but we need a guy in the bullpen. You take him, we'll take him, something to that effect. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So you're thinking more in terms of the bullpen.
Well, I don't think they want to platoon Justin Crawford.
No, but I might just get another right-handed bat is what I meant.
The only thing with that is you got to be pretty damn sure that him coming up here, that he's ready for that job and that he doesn't come up here and then he's hitting 120 and you got to decide to send him back to the minors.
Yeah, that's definitely a no-no. I also was interesting where he did not dismiss the idea of Aiden Miller being far away. He basically made
Nor
it sound,
should he.
He made it sound like we might be seeing Aiden Miller next season potentially.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. When you're the owner of the team and you start to see now you start to get the questions of when are we going to be ready to get him up? By the way, the Dodger lineup just dropped a little while ago. Ohtani, Betts, Edman, Hernandez, Smith, Hernandez, Conforto, Miguel Rojas, and Pajes in center field.
Yeah, no Freeman this weekend.
Nope. First base will be Enrique Hernandez.
By the way, speaking of the owner, John Middleton also was asked about the Phillies' willingness to spend because they brought up to him, hey, you're not the Mets, but you're pretty close, right? The Phillies have been among the highest spenders in baseball in the last few years. And John Middleton, he didn't deny the spending, but he framed it in a way that I thought was interesting. Take a listen.
Starting in 1981, the Yankees had the highest payroll in baseball for 15 consecutive years, and they never managed to win the Eastern Division title and make the postseason. So it's not just about money. It's about having the right players and developing them and keeping them healthy. And as Pat Gillick loved to say, having the luck that you have 25 healthy players playing at the best of the game at precisely the right moment in time.
Yeah, he's not wrong about that. I mean, we've seen so many times that the Mets spend a lot of money. They haven't won skedaddle since they upped their expenditures. The Yankees have been one of the highest payrolls in baseball since their last World Series. He went back to 81, but you go back to the last time they won a World Series, their payroll is 1 or 2 in baseball. Boston's had high payrolls in the past couple of years. Philly has one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They haven't won a World Series in quite some time. So, no, in baseball, pay is not commensurate with success.
It's interesting he also mentioned Gillick because it's the fact that, by the way, there were multiple times in this interview where he references Pat Gillick. So apparently Pat Gillick had a major impact on the way Middleton looks at baseball.
Which he should. I mean, he's the last guy to win a World Series here. And not to mention, he not only won a World Series here, he won World Series in other
Toronto,
spots. Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned about winning a World Series because that was the other part of what Middleton talked about, Mike, because they asked him about how important is it to Middleton that the Phillies win another World Series, and I thought his answer about that was interesting.
It's my legacy. I mean, I've done other things in my life, but I think when I retire, when my time comes, 10 years from now, if anybody remembers me for anything, they're not going to be remembered for anything else. They'll remember me for this. So however well or not well I serve and function, that's going to be my legacy. So it is everything to me.
Yeah. Well, guess what? He's not wrong about that because, quite frankly, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't know what else he does. When you're the owner of a team, your place where you made your money, generally nobody cares about it and doesn't know how you got there.
Right.
And I think John Middleton is in that boat.
Honestly, I think the only owner in sports that people generally know how they made their money was Mark Cuban. I think it's pretty much the only guy, right? Most people have no idea what these
Mark
owners.
Cuban was a celebrity before he became the owner of the
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the
But
only
I think
guy
his celebrity grew
with the Mavericks. Because at the same time, Shark Tank was going on.
Is he known more as the Mavericks' previous owner? He's no longer the owner, or the Shark Tank.
He's a minority owner now. Yeah.
That whole thing's convoluted. Yeah.
Yeah.
But was he known more as the Mavericks owner or the Shark Tank guy?
I think more people knew him for Shark Tank. I mean, at least the people I would run into. Like if you mentioned Mark Cuban's name to a group of like 200 people at a bar, I think probably more people are going to say Shark Tank before Mavs owner.
Maybe. I mean, I know they cross over on Shark Tank a lot.
They do.
They bring up the fact that he's the Mavs owner a lot on the show. I mean, there are very few owners that do have, Jerry Jones is one that I think people know. Steinbrenner, the father.
Well, they might know them, but they don't know anything else about them except for them being owner. Right?
Exactly, yeah. But or how they made their money. Most people are not all that sure of that. Like,
right.
How many people? Jeffrey Lurie was like a movie producer.
Correct.
Middleton, something with cigars?
His family owns a famous cigar company. Is how they made their main money.
Josh Harris is like
investment capital, like investments and stuff like that.
Kind of the new wave of owners here.
But still, the point with Middleton is he's admitting that, look, if this current team...
Well, he knows his audience, too.
Well, that's true. But, you don't hear owners talk about legacy typically, right? Owners talking abstracts and, it's probably part of the reason why some fans hate people like Josh Harris because they don't really address a question directly. They just kind of dance around it. Middleton's like, hey, look, man, I know what the deal is. Now, the other thing, though, is I will say Middleton is a Philadelphia sports fan. Him and his family grew up in the area. So it's a little different than a lot of other sports owners where sports owners are not always from the community of the team that they own.
By the way, the owner of the Flyers is still Comcast? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where so everybody kind of realizes that that's where they're from.
Yeah. But, like Josh Harris, he's not from this area. Jeffrey Lurie's not even from this area. Lurie's kind of more like an adopted Philadelphian at this point.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's rare, though, for the owner to own the team that he is from that place.
Right. So
that's like a big,
Like Middleton tells a story on the podcast about, he went to the Eagles Super Bowl in New Orleans, and he said the greatest experience of his life was walking down the street after the Super Bowl win and Eagle fans high-fiving him, recognizing him and saying, "You're next! The Phillies are going to win next!" And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to win next!" And he was like, "Wait a minute, are we?"
Well, I was at the game in the playoffs the night that Bryson Stott, can you believe this? Bryson Stott actually did something well. He hit a grand slam.
Not Edmundo Sosa?
He hit a grand slam in a playoff game. And against the Marlins in the wild card round. And that eliminated the Marlins that game. And Middleton had a bucket of balls, and he sat and threw balls to the fans after that game was over for like 45 minutes. He just kept getting bucket after bucket after bucket. And it seems like not that big of a deal. And for the Phillies, a baseball, by the way, is not cheap. Like each ball is like $7 a ball. And he's just tossing them out there. And whoever wants one, here you go, take one. And the people just sat there for the whole time waiting for him to throw them a ball. So, I mean, he gets the fans here. He wants to win for the team. I don't think anybody questions that about John Middleton. But there is this kind of ambiguous, like, feeling that he doesn't want to spend any more money.
Well, he said that he's not against spending money.
That's what he says, but actions speak louder.
That's true. And that's where the whole that's Dave Dombrowski's job, man. Whatever he wants to do. But I gotta think even Dave Dombrowski realizes, there's limits to this stuff.
Yeah, I think the actions speak louder than words. If it comes down to it and there's a trade to be made, are they willing to add at the deadline? Now, I don't know that there has been a move that has been made. Like last year when Rooker was quote-unquote available. Nobody else traded for him either.
Right.
So it's not like you got beat on a trade. There hasn't been a trade really made that has been significant enough that you were like, how come we didn't make that deal? That I'm thinking off the top of my head anyway.
I mean, I'm thinking right now, and I can't explicitly think of any deal because when the Mets got rid of Scherzer and Verlander, that was kind of more of like a dump than it was an actual like pickup at the time. So the Phillies wouldn't have been in on those.
I'm
moves.
talking about like in the last 2 to 3 years where they've needed this right-handed bat. Once they lost Hoskins, who was like a 30 home run kind of guy, and now we constantly are like, they need that right-handed bat, they need that right-handed bat, they need that right-handed bat. And then at the deadline, we're like, they got to get that guy, and then they don't. They've gone out and got like Rodolfo Castro. That didn't work.
Austin
Hayes. So, yes, they kind of failed, but I don't know that anybody else made a deal where you're like, how did they make that deal? And you weren't involved in on those talks.
Right.
Now's the time.
The other problem is that you just named a couple guys that didn't work out. It's not like that Dombrowski has made a lot of deals at the deadline that have been like, that's a great move. Like, there's really only one you can think of.
No, which is
unusual for him.
Exactly, because the whole thing was that he'll make moves. He'll trade young guys. He's always willing to pull the trigger.
Yeah, when he was with the Marlins and the Tigers and the Red Sox, he was famous for finding deals at the deadline and making moves. Remember, he was with the 97 Marlins. He got Darren Dalton from the Phillies. With the Tigers, he was the guy who found Miguel Cabrera and brought in the Detroit. And he's the guy who found Animal Sanchez for that starting staff. And then with the Red Sox, he found the World Series MVP, Steven Pierce.
Well, we'll see. It's a big one tonight. It's a good pitching matchup, Luzardo, Yamamoto. We've got that on the docket. We're going to talk with Matt Gill coming up from The Athletic. He'll join us here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. It's Happy Hour Friday. We'll throw some picks in there for you as well. We got another chance for you to qualify for Eagles Club Box tickets for a game at Lincoln Financial Field on the Sports Bash. And that time comes right now. 609-573-3776. Caller 7. Lucky number 7. You're in right now. 609-573-3776. Caller 7. 609-573-3776. Caller 7 will be a part of this year's Eagles draft party at Topgolf Swing Suite inside Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. You'll win a pair of Eagles Club Box tickets, one lucky winner will, to a game to see the Super Bowl champions at Lincoln Financial Field. Other winners will win an overnight stay at Ocean Casino Resort. Other winners will win Ocean Casino Resort gift cards and tickets to Ocean Casino Resort shows. Caller 7, you are joining the party, and I'm going to toss in free parking as well. Good luck. All right, 5:30 Sports Bash Live on a Friday night here as the Phillies and the Dodgers getting ready to meet up for the weekend here. Don't forget the game tonight is on Apple TV Plus, and of course tomorrow is a FS1 game as well. So a couple TV challenges for the people out there, but you'll find it. You must, because it's a big one. A lot of fun. 8-0 Dodgers, 5-1 Phillies. The matchup here that a lot of people anticipate could happen deep into October. Let's take a look at the matchup now. Matt Gill from The Athletic set to jump on board from Citizens Bank Park with the Phils, getting ready to host the Dodgers. It'll be Jesus Luzardo's first start at Citizens Bank Park. And, Matt, I saw you tweet out about, or post out, I guess it's called now, about 3 hours ago that the tailgates were setting up. Do you get the sense that the Phillies and the fans are already kind of treating this as, one of the big games of the season? And maybe, it's so early that they're playing the Dodgers, but almost like a measuring stick type of thing.
I think maybe for the fans, but not necessarily for the team. I mean, I think, obviously they're playing the Dodgers, and it's there's going to be more attention on this series. But it was funny because Rob Thompson was asked all these questions for the game, and they kind of, somebody asked him, how much more are you going to read into this series because you're playing the Dodgers, and he just kind of like stares blankly and just goes, not much. And in Rob Thompson's view, I get it. I mean, they won't have Jose Alvarado tonight or probably tomorrow. And he pitched the last 2 days, and people were like, well, why not save him for one of these games? It's like, well, the game against the Rockies matters just as much as the game against the Dodgers in the regular season.
Yeah.
These games do all matter the same. But, yeah, I mean, for us and for fans, it's an exciting matchup. Dodgers come in undefeated. So, yeah, there's going to be some juice in the building tonight, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
When you look at these two games, the attention was all Dodgers. They won the World Series, and then they spent more money. And I know Bryce Harper talked about it a little bit, but I'm not even looking at money. When you look at the two teams just in general, what do you think separates these two teams? That everybody thinks the Dodgers are, I don't know, do people think they're head and shoulders? Maybe, but that they're the clear betting favorite. Why do you think when they look at Phillies and Dodgers that most people would lean towards the Dodgers?
They just have more of everything, right? They put Freddie Freeman on the injured list, and, that kind of registers, but it's almost like a blip, right? I mean, because they have guys who can backfill. And, no, are they as good as Freddie Freeman? No, they're not. But they have options. Right now they have like 10 or 11 pitchers on the injured list right now. And you wouldn't know it, right? I mean, because they have a deep pitching staff. They have different waves of guys. They have guys that they've signed, traded for, drafted. Like, they just have more of everything. So, and that's how you withstand a 162-game season. Now, top-end talent, Dodgers have it, but so do the Phillies. And honestly, like, these two pitching staffs, especially the rotations, I think they compare pretty favorably. Especially if Luzardo, who's going tonight, is the guy who is more like Luzardo from 2023. I think the Phillies are right there rotation-wise with the Dodgers, but Dodgers just have more of everything. And, some of it is hurt right now, but when it comes back, they'll replace somebody else who gets hurt. So that depth is huge.
Matt Gelb from The Athletics with us, Phillies and Dodgers. I think you're right. The pitching thing is really interesting. And if pitching sets up for the Phillies, they don't have to face the lefty in this series. They'll get the three right-handers. And obviously that's the best opportunity for the Phillies with the Stott, Marsh, Schwarber leading off tonight. But overall, how do you think the players are taking this switching of the leadoff stuff and the lineup stuff? Is that something that they're not quite comfortable with yet, or does it seem like everybody's on board with that?
I think guys have an open mind to it. I think a lot of guys in there would prefer to have one set lineup, but in this day and age in baseball, I don't know that that's necessarily a thing that teams are going to do. Every team, especially the Dodgers, they have different lineups for different pitchers. And I think that's just a fact of life now. Now, I will say this. I think what has made Phillies hitters happy is that in general, the personnel is going to be the same. Now, the order might not be the same against a righty or a lefty, but they are committed to Brandon Marsh playing every day, and they're committed to Bryson Stott playing every day. And I know that there were a lot of people who was like, oh, well, how can they not play Edmundo Sosa, or how can Johan Rojas not get more time? I think for now they want to see what this regular lineup with the same 9 guys looks like on most days. And I can't blame them for that. I think the players would prefer that. And I think some of these guys like Stott and Marsh, you got to see it. So it helps them here. They have a string of righties. You're going to see a pretty consistent lineup for the next week or so, and we'll see what they do.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's been a big topic of conversation, and I'm sure, as you know, many people, you see Sosa get off to the start. He's hitting 600. He's been a spark. Why not play him more? How do they get him more playing time? I guess the question I would have for you, Matt, is are they committed to Stott playing essentially every single day, or is there a window for Sosa to platoon there, or do they just like Stott there? I mean, there are people out there saying why Stott gets such a rope.
I mean, I think they like him there a lot, and I think they want to see what he does. Now, is there room for Sosa later? I think so. I don't think they're there yet, though, and they're going to give Stott a chance to prove that he is a productive everyday player and can be productive against lefties, and I get it. I mean, this is a guy who was a first-round draft pick who we've seen flashes of really, really solid play from, and he wants to play. So I think like you have to give him the benefit of the doubt here, at least for the first 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is, until you start to say, okay, maybe we need to play Sosa against lefties. I get it, and I think that Stott has earned the benefit of the doubt there. I think, to me, Sosa is really good in the role that he's in. I do. You know, if they need him to play for an injured player for three straight weeks or something, great. We saw him do it last year for Turner. But we've seen, like, the more he plays, he does get a little bit exposed. He does like to swing. But I think in the role that he's in, sort of that 10th man role that he's been talking about, which is kind of a funny way of thinking about it, I mean, he's great in that role. I really do. I mean, I think that's the role that he should fill. And for now, that's the role he's going to be in.
By the way, I tend to agree with you. I'm just getting hammered today by the listeners who, how dare I not want Edmundo Sosa to play every single day. But I agree with you. Like, I think in baseball, it's a weapon like the depth. We don't think of depth too much in baseball. We don't think about that. It's like, hey, it's the 9 guys, and that's who it is. But him, the ability for him to play second some days, and then, hey, you need a day off for short, I play there. And third, if he's starting every day someplace, you know, that depth changes a little bit. I don't know that Bryson Stott, you know, coming off the bench is the same type of spark, and his, you know, defensive, you know, he's more of a second. He could play some short, I guess, if you needed him to, but Sosa can really play 3, and that kind of maximizes him as much, which kind of brings us to the Marsh thing, because Marsh, they come into tricky situations. Okay, Stott's up. He's struggling against a lefty. You could hit Sosa for him. But when Marsh comes up against a lefty, it puts him in a tough spot because they really, if you hit Sosa for him, then you almost have to put Rojas in the game. You have to burn 2 guys. Is that something that they're cognizant of? Or would they hit Rojas against a lefty late in a game instead of Marsh? It hasn't really happened yet, but those things, you know, he tried to bunt the other day, couldn't get the bunt down. There was a at bat in the 6th yesterday. He actually fouled off a couple pitches and ended up walking against a lefty in the 6th. But that might start to come up here. What do they do in that situation?
I mean, it's going to depend on the spot. I mean, like, yeah, I wonder, like, what happens if the Dodgers bring in Tanner Scott here, you know, late in one of these games and Marsh is due up. I don't think they'd be afraid to use 2 players, you know, to have Sosa be the pinch hitter if they think he's the best matchup there. But I'm going to guess that they're going to give Marsh a shot, you know, to face these tough lefty relievers. So I think Sosa is your best pinch hitter if there's a lefty on the mound and you want to go that route. And I don't think they'd be afraid to use 2 players in that kind of move that, you know, you described there.
Matt Gill from The Athletic. Give me your observation so far of what the bullpen's going to be. I mean, you obviously, Alvarado, 35 pitches not available. Is he the closer? Is Romano the closer? Does it matter what the lineup looks like? Who do they have the most trust in kind of at this point of the season?
Seems like all 4 guys. You know, I mean, Romano has gotten some late inning stuff, so has Alvarado. You know, it was kind of an adventure with Alvarado, 35 pitches. You know, pitching on back-to-back days. I think early in the season, you know, it's less about situation, more about, like, which guy has had a day or 2 off, right? Because you're not trying to run your guys into the ground early in the season, especially. Kerkering is a guy they trust. You know, Matt Strom didn't really have a spring training, right? You know, missed a lot of time at the end of spring, and I think they're still kind of easing him back in. He threw a ton of pitches the other day. So I really don't think there is a guy with a capital G. I think there's, you know, 3, 4, sometimes maybe even 5 guys. I think Joe Ross is a guy that they want to use in later innings. He was warming up in the 9th inning yesterday when Alvarado got into trouble and Ross was going to come in. So they've liked what they've seen from him. So I think out of those 4 or 5 guys, I think it's kind of interchangeable. And, you know, whoever is pitching better is probably going to get more opportunities late. But I think right now they're kind of open-minded about it.
I know it's only 6 games, but do you think this bullpen ultimately will be better than last year's bullpen?
Hard to say. I mean, a bullpen last year was so good, right, until they got to October. And that was the mystifying thing, is that those guys were just tremendous. You know, you had 2 setup men who were all-stars last year, Hoffman and Strom, and Kerkering was great, and they got Estevez. I don't know. I don't know if it's better or not. I mean, I think there's been some encouraging stuff from Romano ever since that first outing. You know, he's been throwing 97 now, getting some more swings. Alvarado, yesterday notwithstanding, I mean, has been almost unhittable. His stuff is off the charts right now. So you're looking for Kirkering to take a step. It's hard to say they're going to be better than last year, though, right? I mean, that was such a good bullpen until October. So maybe they won't be as good during the season. Maybe they'll be better in October.
All right, Matt Gelb's with us, Phillies and Dodgers, and obviously big one, Dodgers 8-0 here, Phillies 5-1. The play at Citizens Bank Park. They haven't been able to score much against starters, and obviously they've gotten into bullpens, but you mentioned it. The one thing with the Phillies against the Dodgers this week, you got the 3 right-handed starters, but Tanner Scott being the lefty at the back end of that bullpen, that will present some challenges, I think, for really the first time. So we'll see how that shakes out here. But give me your thoughts on the pitching matchup tonight, Luzardo and Yamamoto. What do we expect to see from these two guys?
Tough matchup from the Phillies because they haven't seen Yamamoto, and he's a guy who really excels at getting hitters to expand the zone. And what's been the talking point about the Phillies the last few years is that they are apt to chase pitches out of zone, and that Yamamoto splitter, they haven't really seen it, and they're going to see a lot of it tonight. And he uses that pitch to get guys to chase, and so it's going to be a really interesting matchup for the offense. See what they can do against this guy. He's a tremendous pitcher, and then Luzardo, his home debut. I thought in the first observations in the first 6 games, he might be at the top of the list for me. I mean, his first start was, I think, incredibly encouraging for the Phillies. We saw the stuff. We saw him incorporate a new sweeping slider. We saw a guy who's just got a really good competitive juices. And look, he's 27 years old. He's coming off of injuries, but this guy is still a pitcher who I think is learning how good he can be. And if he's throwing as hard as he was in his first start, he looks like he's going to be a really solid force for them.
Yeah, you're right about that. He's got unbelievable stuff. Sanchez looked fantastic. By the way, Luzardo plus 6,000 for Cy Young. Sanchez plus 2,000 for Cy Young. So the Phillies have those 2 long shots there that have been a lot of fun. Should be a fun weekend at Citizens Bank Park. Don't forget Apple TV Plus tonight. For the game. Matt Gelb will have all the info at The Athletic, and he was kind enough to join us about an hour before first pitch at Citizens Bank Park. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Enjoy the baseball.
Yeah, man, all weekend long, and great stuff from him. The one thing he brought up that I want to kind of touch on a little further here, when you take a look at the Marsh thing, he's right about the Marsh thing. There really hasn't been that, it hasn't materialized quite yet, but when it does, and they have to make that decision, I'm really interested to see. He said, and this is kind of interesting, that they would not be adverse to making 2 moves. And I think he's right about that if it's later on in the game. Like, if you're going to hit for Marsh in the 8th, you'll make the 2 moves. But if it's like the 6th inning, let's say you have bases loaded and 2 outs, and now Marsh is up against a lefty. Do you want a right-handed bat in that spot of a close game to try to bust that game open? It's a 3-1 game. You're up 3-1, and you want that, a couple extra insurance runs, or, you're down in the game and you want to try to get, you're down 3-1 and you want to try to get those 2 runs back. Do you go to a right-hander? That's where I think, it's going to be interesting. We might get our first chances to see what that might look like tonight at Citizens Bank Park. Matt Gelb, good stuff. I don't know that we've had Matt on our show before. I know he's done game night a couple times. It's been a while. If he's been on, it's been a while. He does a really good job for The Athletic there. Next week, of course, the Phillies will play the Braves. So this is an interesting weekend because what did we say the other day? The Braves are 0-7. They're the only team that has not won a game, and no team that started the season 0-7 has ever made the playoffs. And it's been 42 years since a team that was 0-7 had a winning record. So that's what the Phillies, the Braves are up against right now. And I bring that up because the Phillies play the Braves next week. But if you're the Braves, you're 0-7, and you're looking at the standings right now, you're like, geez, we're already, 5.5 games behind the Phillies? Now they play the Dodgers. We could try to creep our way. Now, it's the first week of the season, but look, you're 5.5 games out. You're 5.5 games out already. I mean, that right now is the biggest deficit other than Colorado, who is 6 games back at the Dodgers, who are 8-0. But you're 5.5. That's a lot of games to try to climb back. I know you got a whole season to do it, but you remember what happened to the Phillies a couple of years ago. They just could not get back. They were 8 games out, 3 weeks into the year. They never got back into that race. The Braves are 0-7. Now, the Phillies are playing the Dodgers, If you're the Braves, we're playing the Marlins, you're saying. We got to try to get 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, and hopefully the Phillies get swept here, and we can kind of trickle our way back into this race a bit, because then the two teams play. And you imagine if you can't gain any ground this weekend after they're playing the Dodgers and you're playing the Mets, and then you play against each other. And let's say the Phillies, I mean, you look at the pitching matchups when the Phillies play the Braves. It's Chris Sale and Wheeler, blockbuster, right? Schwellenbach and Walker, okay, advantage them probably, although Walker pitched well. And then Smith-Shawver against Luzardo. Probably a little bit of a wash. Two young guys with a lot really good stuff.
Right.
So this is a pretty interesting series where you're playing the Dodgers and they're playing the Marlins, that the Braves 0-7 are saying, all right, we got to win a game. And if we win the game, we got to try to gain some ground in this thing too. I know it sounds so crazy to talk about it this early, but 0-7 never have made the playoffs, and 42 years since 0-7 has ended with a winning record. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. We got Carl in Marmora. Carl, so nice to see you. He qualified for the Eagles tickets. It's going to be a big party, man. Draft day. Can't wait. Love the draft. Hate the Drake. Love the draft. You like that one, huh?
That was good. You've had some good ones throughout the day today.
I got the Bet365 play of the day coming up for the weekend edition. It's Happy Hour Friday.
I was you got some happy hour picks for the people out there?
I did. What did I have last week? I was over at Hidden Sands in Egg Harbor Township.
There you go.
They had like a citrus IPA. I can't remember the name of it.
Sounds
I think it might have been citrus IPA.
like the name of it?
But it had a little orange, like citrusy little bang to it there.
Ooh.
Check that out. They got the 107, the 806. They're my go-tos over there. My buddy had something he liked. I got to look at the menu real fast so I get the right names of it. But it was like a citrus IPA. I don't know if it was on just for that night, because the guy was saying we have a lot of citrus stuff this weekend. So because last week was the beer festival.
Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
All right, I'll give the Bet365 play of the day next on the Sports Bash. All right, here we go. Getting you out of here on a Happy Hour Friday. By the way, the name of the beer it's a Citra double IPA. It's a 608 double IPA. It's a little orange, citrusy hop brew. I enjoyed it. A little citrusy punch. I don't know if I'm going to drink a lot of them. Maybe like a one little banger with the little citrus if you like it. The other one I had, somebody was having, it was the Candid Hazelnut Porter.
Interesting.
So like a dark beer. I like hazelnut in my coffee, so I'm wondering if I would like that dark beer style there. All right, time for the Bet365 play of the day. How'd we do last night?
Mike, you went 0-1. Magic couldn't cover the 15.5.
That's a bummer. Well, I got 2 tries for you this weekend. Oklahoma City -6.5 against Houston. Celtics -13.5 against the Suns. They're my Bet365 plays of the day for this weekend. What's the overall record? Do we know?
142, 94-1.
142, 94-1. Can't argue with that, people. That's a moneymaker for you guys out there. Citrus DIPA. Sounds like it's time for me to get home. That's a Hidden Sands over there in EHT. Good stuff over there. Appreciate them. And, of course, everybody out there for listening today and watching the show. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. Have a great rest of your weekend or upcoming weekend. Good night.